Welcome to the second to last day of the year. So,
Yay!
um,
And second to last day of the decade.
yeah.
Yep.
As we said from the end of the last thing, we're not doing a decade recap or best of decade thing like that, because that's too much.
Yep.
um,
And I feel like each of us would have our own different top 10 for that, and it's just way too much.
Yeah, let's not
and I feel like the
put
vast
ourselves through
majority
that.
of stuff that we would say would probably be like movies that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah. Um, So we are going to talk about this year, though, and more
Mhm.
specifically stuff, movies, shows, and also game. Well, pretty much singular game that we have played, watched this year that we have not talked about before,
Yep.
really.
Hmm.
Um, so this will probably be very long, but we'll do our best to not meander forever. But I feel like we should start with the thing that we have all experienced
Yes,
to
I
a
agree with
large degree, and that is, well, basically the one game that we played this year, which is Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Yep.
Now, how
So
far did you two get?
we ended up doing more max weight raids today.
Okay, so
So we're right before Raihan.
okay,
Still.
yeah, so you two are before the eighth gym. I finished like after like 2 days. So,
Oh my God.
I guess
uh,
should we say our disclaimer of we're going to talk more in depth, like about characters and like the storyline later.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Later date.
story and characters we'll talk about uh, probably mid-January ish.
Hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
where so I was thinking today we should talk about the new Pokemon, the region, kind of more of like the gameplay and the modes and stuff like that. Because
Mhm.
you've pretty much seen vast majority of that stuff at this point.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so where should we start? New Pokemon?
Yeah, I guess we can talk about new Pokemon
Yeah.
Okay.
first.
So I remember when the pre-release for this was coming out, and I was kind of worried because there weren't really any Pokemon that like I really like latched onto.
Mm.
I didn't like hate anything, but I was like, yeah, that's okay, and that's okay, and that's okay. You know what I mean? It was like just all stuff that I thought was okay. So I was like, yeah, I want something like I really like. I was a little worried. Um, but now that we actually know everything, I am not worried. So, I'm okay. I will defend Gen 5 to death as having overall the best Pokemon designs. People who shit on fucking Vanillix and Garbodor and act like that's the representative of the entire generation are full of garbage and they should shut the hell up. But I'm
But
legitimately not sure for me whether Alola or Galar are second.
I can agree with you on that. Mainly because I guess the thing is that when I saw the Pokemon for, is it Galar or Galar?
I
I'm
think
not
it's Galar.
Galar.
I
Okay.
don't know.
So I was like, oh, I actually really like most of the designs and
Mhm.
stuff like that, and I was actually really genuinely interested in trying out like a lot of the new Pokemon and stuff like that. At which I think we can all agree that uh, predominantly most of our Pokemon in this region are from Galar and stuff like that.
Yeah, I went in. I usually try to. I made the mistake before of trying to pick out my team, but this time I was like, I'm just gonna try to catch as many as I can and try them out. And
Mhm.
I've been having like a main team and then a backup team when I guess I want to just switch it up. And
Mhm.
I've been exposed to a lot of interesting Pokemon. Like oh, I'm thinking of like the nicknames I gave them, but Scorch was especially impressive when
Yeah.
I ended up using it. It has like the typing is it's been done before and it has like this very awful 4x weakness, but I was like, okay, what the heck? I'll try it out at least on my like secondary team, and wow, it's very strong.
Yeah, it's I did what I usually do, which is plan out a team in advance, and I did it a little bit differently. Whereas before, it's basically like, here are my six. I'm only using these six. Here it was more like I have an end goal in mind, but I'm going to have a few things along the way that I am going to use.
Because a lot of yours came later, I
Yeah,
think.
a lot of mine came later, and I was actually lucky in that 2 of the things that I wanted to use I got in raids much earlier than I would have otherwise.
That's good.
But yeah, so in terms of the Pokemon overall, I don't have very many that I like absolutely love, but the vast majority of Pokemon I like a decent amount. Like the average rating is very high, even though I think I would really say there's only one that I like love.
Which one?
Toxtricity.
Oh my god.
Toxtricity is my boy. He is like,
He's your boy of this generation.
yeah, like because I remember when his stats first were leaked or whatever, and I was like, stats are like not that great, but then I was like, but the ability should be good, and like, you know, hopefully he gets like Boom Burst, and like, and I was like, hopefully he should get like an electric type sound based move. Guess what? He did. So that, and just I always found that Toxtricity, like in almost every battle, was either like I was always surprised in that he killed something that I didn't expect him to, or he survived something I didn't expect him to, or he outsped something I didn't expect him to. It was always like it was like clutch in like so many situations, and I was just like, hell yeah, you are awesome. And so he was like my MVP. He just tear through things, and he just looks freaking cool. So yeah, that's the only one that I really say is like I love. But a lot of things like I like a lot. For example, like Corviknight I like a lot. Centiskorch I like
Corviknight's really good.
Grapploct and Clobopus, I use those. Phalanx, I didn't use it, but I really like how it looks.
No escape.
Yeah.
It's really interesting using it, actually.
Yeah, and then like at first I wasn't super sure how much I liked Grimmsnarl, but especially after using it, I actually kind of like it pretty good amount too. I would say Grimmsnarl is probably my second best team member that I use. So like that. Dragapult I still think looks cool, even though it's a little annoying to use in game. The only Pokemon that I say my opinion went down on was Frosmoth. And I'm really sad about that because I still think it looks really cool, but it was like the opposite thing of Centiskorch. It was like, it just did not kill something I thought it would, it did not survive something I thought it would, and it did not outspeed something I thought it would. And I was just like, man, like, So that was kind of the one thing where I'm like, this is kind of frustrating that
Especially Snom is so cute.
It's like the ultimate pet Pokemon.
Yeah, so that's kind of annoying. The only thing that I really say that I'd like... Okay. There's one Pokemon that I flat out don't like. I do not like the squirrels.
Oh, really?
I don't like
They're
Greedent.
really cute.
The first one's okay, but the evolution, it just looks... It looks like... It's like, oh god, no. It's so dumb looking. So...
I mean, I think the cartooniness makes it cute, but...
Yeah.
No, I don't like it. But hey, like, that's the only one, really. Like, everything else, even some of the stuff, like, for example, do I like Alcremie? I'm like, I don't really like it, but it's like, it's fine, right?
Oh my god, I thought it looked so creepy
No,
with,
no,
like...
it's just like, it's whatever, right? So, like, Alcremie's, like, fine.
Some of them look okay.
So, but yeah, in terms of things I don't like, that's pretty much it. There's a few, okay. I don't really like the Galarian Mr. Mime or, like, Mr. Rhyme, but I like it better than the original, so...
Yeah.
I guess that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's stuff like that. Because, like, again, compared to Alola, I think there's more Pokemon in Alola that I, like, love, but there are more that I don't like as well. So, again,
I think I can agree with that, too.
So in terms of, like, the average, they're, like, comparable. I'm not really sure exactly.
I guess I've had, Yamper, and I had, Hatterene? Hatterene. Yeah. So I tried those both out. Yamper wasn't like it was, of course it was a dog, so I was going to get it. Similarly, I was also like, okay, electric dog, that's done with like Electrike and Manectric, which are also in the region, which I found interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
But I think what won my heart over was she was already a Boltund at that point, and I was using her against my main Pokemon for, I think, the fighting gym fainted, so I had to switch to Boltund, and she actually survived 2 hits on 1 HP because she loved me so much. And I was like, oh my god, I have a real doggo, so I fell in love with her.
I do find it funny that like Yamper is like so slow, but then Volton's like so fast.
I think because the legs grew.
It's just funny. It literally goes from like 20 speed to like 120 speed. It's just like okay.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
And then again, I wasn't sure about like I called her Sophie, but because from Howl's Moving Castle, but so I wasn't sure about that because I was like, okay, Psychic Fairy has been done quite a bit.
Gardevoir is also in the region.
Gardevoir is there. And Galarian Rapidash is somehow also Psychic Fairy. I'm not exact what the logistics for that was, but it's also there. So I was like, okay, let's see. I mean, worst case, if it doesn't end well, then I mean, I have other options at least.
Yeah.
Ribombee is there, which I have that on my secondary team because Ribombee will always be Sora in my heart. But yeah, I ended up liking her a lot too. I like the design, her final evolution. The design grew on me and everything. Even though the Pokédex entries can kind of
the angry librarian Pokemon.
I was just like, this is my.
Silence!
So, I like those two a lot. And then I think the only one where I was like, I wish it had potential, but the moveset didn't work out was I tried Galarian Gamask, at which I evolved it into Runerigus.
Runerigus.
Yeah. Runerigus. Okay.
And sadly, he's mainly defense. So special defense and defense. So he's a tank. He survives everything. The problem is that his physical attack is higher than his special attack. But the majority of like the ground or rock moves that he learns are all special attack.
Oh.
So
he got move pool screwed.
He got move pool screwed. So I was like, there is like, especially in the beginning of the game, you don't really, unless you do raids like continuously, you're not going to get things like Earthquake and stuff like that really early on. So I was like, no, but it's such a cool design.
Yeah, I do like that design.
It was really sad. I was very sad about that.
I think I actually like the Galarian forms and the form evolutions. I think as a whole, I like them more than the Alola forms, actually. And at the time, I like the Alola forms a lot, too. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I also used Obstagoon. I'm very impressed by how much they buffed, the Lanoon line. Because, anyone from Hoenn probably used Lanoon as their HM slave. Because it learned so many HMs, so I was like, okay, I have to pay back to my Lanoon for all his years of service, because I used to farm Earthquake on Sapphire to transfer up to like Diamond and Pearl back in the day when TMs were one. So I had
remember that.
Many Lanoons, and now I'm just like, okay, you have a new evolution. Let's try it out. Oh my god, Obstagoon is very strong.
Yeah, I thought of maybe using it, but I ended up not. Again, that happened for a lot of Pokemon. I was like, I might use this, but I didn't.
I recommend.
Yeah.
If you get Earthquake early, then you can probably use Runerigus, but...
Yeah. But yeah, the Galarian forms, let's see. I like, for example... I think every single one I like more than the original to some degree. Some I like, for example, Rapidash. It's kind of a wash, I'd say.
Yeah, don't really like it.
But like, besides that, okay, like the Meowth Berserker thing. It's like, I don't know if I like it, but it's weird, and I'll take weird over boring. So
yeah,
it grew on me after a while. I was like, it's a little Viking.
Yeah,
it's a tiny angry Viking.
It's a Viking troll chasing me. Great, awesome.
Oh, just how they always chase you around. Those are
Yeah.
But yeah, like I really like, even though I didn't use it, I still really like the look of Weezing. And I like Stunfisk a lot better here. I hate normal Stunfisk, and I don't really like this one, but I appreciate it more because
You appreciate
the whole
it.
bear
It's
trap
a
angle is
redesign
clever.
of it, yeah.
Yeah.
We
So-
just had max raid against it actually
Mm.
before
Oh, yeah.
before this conversation.
Yeah.
We just caught it too.
So that
Right.
I feel like I'm forgetting stuff. Oh, Surfetched, of course. That's great having
Yes, yeah, that's just pretty.
used for Farfetch'd. I like Cursolet too. In the design.
We haven't found.
Yeah.
It's
Cursolet
Shield
yet.
exclusive.
Yeah.
I haven't found it then because like
I
It's
believe
like
it's
weather based,
Searchester
too.
Bay area. I don't know.
it's wild area only.
I think it's no Searchester Bay. I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'll go check
Might
it
be
out.
like fishing only or something, but yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll try to find it.
Yeah. So
Finally.
yeah, so I like all of those. Yeah, the only point I don't like the scrolls, but everything else I think is okay to pretty dang good. The only thing that I'd say is legitimately is kind of disappointing are the starter evolutions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with
I
that.
don't hate them. Like some people hate them, and even now, for example, I picked in Sobble to get Intellion, and I like Intellion now after using it more than I originally did. But I still don't really say that I like. For example, every single other generation, there has been at least one starter where I'm like, I really want to use that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that too.
Mhm.
Except this one.
I felt pretty lukewarm about it until I picked mine and I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
kind of just
okay,
feel
I'll
like
go with
lukewarm on all
Calibu.
of them. So
I think I actually liked Reboot better than Cinderace. Which,
yeah, Cinderace is I don't know what it's kind of bothers me about it, but something bothers me.
No, I agree with that too. I'm kind of like,
I just feel like it's a little bit boring.
Yeah, that
I
too.
think the two main things is something about its face is a little bit weird, and
Mhm.
I don't like that it has pants.
Yeah.
But it's they're not real pants; they're fur pretending to be pants, and I feel like that makes it worse though. It's I
Yeah.
don't know. It's so
I feel like I actually liked Reboot better than I did Cinderace, which after I evolved my Reboot into a Cinderace, I was like, I regret this. Actually. And then soon after I evolved him, you get Eviolite, and I was like,
A
dang
missed
it.
opportunity.
yeah.
I
But
probably would have just continued with Reboot, but yeah, I would say none of the starters are my absolute favorite starters, or even in my top 3 starters.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that bothers me the most is that they start out as very animal-like, but then they end up humanoid, all of
Yeah.
them.
yeah, that's
I
fair.
don't know why they did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this was the first game where I have legitimately my final team did not have my starter on it. That said, looking back on it, I probably should have kept my starter on it just because it helped with the typing balance better.
Did
Because
you have a water type? I don't remember.
after I dropped Intellion, no. So, and I kept getting screwed by that because I'm like, shit, I need a thing to deal with fire, and I literally all I had was my Grapple Locked had Liquidation. So, and I'm like, this kind of is not that great because I dropped Intellion for Dragapult, which was pretty good, but it just the type coverage was not super great. And then I had Colossal, which was actually which was okay. I think it was suffering mostly because right when I was dropping it, its moves were falling behind. But I think if I kept it at a few more levels, it would learn Rock Slide and some better moves.
Oh.
So, but I
Can
dropped
I-
it. I dropped it for Frosmoth. So
Can I just plug Dreadnought? Because I used that too, and it's also kind of like Toxicity, where I'm like, why are you faster than this
yeah, it has
Pokemon?
70 speed, which is kind of weird for a turtle. But
Yeah.
It's like a rock. Water. You would think that would make it extremely slow, Caracosta was
yeah, I'm about to say,
30
what is
speed.
Caracosta's speed? Let me look that up.
30 or 35, but yeah, Dreadnought is surprisingly fast and surprisingly strong. If you have Waterfall on it really fast, then
Oh, that's why. Its speed is 32.
Yeah, Caracosta's 32, and I believe, Dreadnought's 70.
Actually, wait. Another small sidetrack from what we were talking about. I feel really bad for all the fossil Pokemon in this game.
Okay. I
sad.
I'm not 100% sure how I feel about them because, like, I don't like how they look, but, like, that's literally the point.
Yeah.
So,
But it seems like animal cruelty.
well, again, I really like the idea because it just is something that's really weird and kind of messed up, and the fact that they're like, yeah, here these, you just, horribly created these terrifying things. But it's like, do I like it?
No.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'll give them that.
Like, just reading the Pokédex entries, it's just
So
like
funny.
It's so sad.
It's like, what is it? Dracovish is like, oh, it can run at top speeds, but it only breathes water. And it's like, okay, congratulations. You lose.
Oops.
So, yeah, you have that, and, like, I think, like, Arctovish was, like, its head's on upside down. It's just
it's really sad.
It's just funny. But yeah.
But as we were saying about typing.
Yeah. Like there's, let's see, what else did I use? So yeah, Toxtricity was best. Grimmsnarl was great. It was a good, again, physical tank kind of thing. Again, it actually did outspeed some things I didn't expect it would either, because it's not super slow. I think its speed is also like 70. But yeah, so that worked well there. Grapplocked was actually pretty good also. It was one of those things where, like, it would kind of be clutch, where it was slow, but it would survive the hit and then would hit back really hard. It's just the problem is that since it was slow, I couldn't use it for like a long time because it does get hit, more than it didn't. But again, the move pool, because of course you have Octolock, which is really great for basically if your opponent just has one Pokemon left, just use Octolock, and then it's like they're screwed because their defense just lowers every turn. It kind of guarantees you will win eventually, basically.
Oh.
So that's really nice. And then yeah, it had, I would give it, I forgot what fighting move I gave it at the end of it, but it had, stab fighting move, liquidation, and I think, like, payback or something, I don't know. So, good enough move pool. Corviknight, I actually, ended up being pretty decent. And then, yeah, I had the Dragapult, which also is okay, and then Frostmoth, which is kind of disappointing. I also, so yeah, Inteleon I used up until I got Dragapult. Colossal I used until I got a Frostmoth, and those are both pretty good. Again, I mentioned the Colossal thing. The only thing I really used, like, a decent amount was, for, like, the first 2 gyms, I used Eldegoss, because I was looking at Ness's gym, and I'm like, I have nothing for you, unless I use Eldegoss. So, and besides for Nessa, I don't recommend using Eldegoss. It is obscenely slow. Like, Roggenrola outsped it. It was pathetic how slow it was.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, that was kind of not great, but again, it just destroyed Nessa completely, so that worked there. But otherwise, yeah, like, for example, I haven't done it, but I do kind of want to play through the game again and use just a different team. I probably still want to use Toxtricity just because I really like it, but, like, I want to use Phalanx. I want to actually use Inteleon to, like, the entire game. I want to use Flapple. I'm thinking maybe I didn't actually use any of the Galarian forms, even though I like them. I could maybe use some of those, right? So there are other Pokemon I still want to use for that. So, and actually, since the Switch, you can make, even though there's not multiple save files exactly, since you can create a new profile on the Switch, and that kind of gives you a new game. It's much easier to do a second game here than otherwise. So, yeah, so that's a really good thing about this as well. But I
agree with you that, like, playing, even though we haven't finished the game, I'm like, yeah, there are, like, some Pokemon that I want to try out and stuff like that. Like, I want to play through with, like, different teams and stuff like that. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about the new Pokemon? Because I want to kind of shift into sort of old Pokemon and Pokemon balance.
No, I think that's about it.
Everyone's in agreement that they overall like the Pokemon. And...
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that, in addition to new Pokemon, what's good, of course, is how do the new Pokemon balance with the old Pokemon, right? And one of my one of my several problems with X and Y was that there were so few new Pokemon compared to the old Pokemon.
Yeah.
It was something like the percent of new Pokemon in Kalos is like 17%. It's so
17?
small. It's really small. So, whereas, like, Alola was better, especially the original Sun and Moon, where I think you had 300, and counting Alolan forms, I think there were 97 new Pokemon or something. So that's like 1/3. That's pretty good. And so here, also counting Galarian forms, it's because it's out of what, 400? So again, I think it's about like 25%. Which
Okay.
is, again, not
Which is pretty
great,
good.
but it's better than the 17 for X and Y. And I feel
Yeah.
like the new Pokemon, because a lot of the older Pokemon are like just kind of in the wild area, so if you're actually going through the main story of the game, I feel like you see more new Pokemon than like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know, if you would otherwise. So the balance is better here than at least in X and Y especially. So I still think probably the best balance would ultimately be probably like a Ruby Sapphire or Black and White 2 element where it's like half and half. But if we're going to be getting, 70-ish new Pokemon plus forms from now on, then I think this is fine.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
I think so too.
So, yeah.
I think the typings also made me
Yeah.
really happy too
Oh, yeah.
with like the Pokemon typings, because I feel like when Fairy was first introduced in X and Y, like Dragon types are just basically screwed.
Yeah.
Like, completely.
They got nerfed.
They got completely nerfed, and then Sun and Moon made it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
They helped it along a tiny bit, but I feel like here they finally kind of balanced out the Fairy types with like adding Pokemon that
Mm-hmm.
Fairy types not effective against, like at all, and stuff like that.
Like more steel types.
Yeah, like more steel types
Or poison types.
and
Okay, they're
stuff
good
like
about
that.
both of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like they balanced it out. Whereas like in X and Y, it's like there was like that dragon type Elite Four member or something.
Oh, yeah.
Why bother?
It was like there was like you just destroyed him with like one single Pokemon, and that was it.
I mean, to be fair, you kind of destroyed everyone with one Pokemon in X and Y.
Including
That's
Diantha.
true. That's true.
But
Yeah.
yeah, the balance definitely better here. And yeah. So okay, I know we don't want to dwell on it, but we have to at least mention the National Dex shit.
Oh yeah.
Okay. My stand. Okay, first of all, there is a lot of misinformation out there about like,
Yeah.
oh, there's secret insider information that Game Freak was actually like this. Like, and honestly, I don't know if any of that shit is true. And because it's so, who knows, right? All this stuff about like, I saw a thing that was like they fucked up like the model importer from Sun and Moon. I don't know what's true or not. Okay, so my stance is rumors are false until proven true. So, in that sense, I'm just gonna not really talk about that. Now, here's the thing, and I didn't really think about this until the National Dex stuff came out in the first place, but this kind of was inevitable.
Yeah.
You're gonna get to a point where it's like you can't have 2,000 Pokemon in the game. Like,
Yeah.
that's not gonna work, right?
Because then you're going to be spending game cartridges can only hold so much information, right? So you don't want to spend like half of that memory just with Pokemon, because then what kind of game are you going to get out of that?
Right, and ideally, yeah, nothing should be cut, right? Ideally, everything should be available, but we don't have that luxury, and at some point, so they had to make a decision at some point, and
Yeah.
I think, and again, we think in terms of the balance of the Pokemon that are available, I think is pretty good.
Yes.
The one thing that I think would help a lot, and would kind of solve most people's issues, would be if they made some sort of like a Battle Revolution or Pokemon Stadium kind of game
that'd be
that would be
good.
good.
that could link directly with, home, and could use all Pokemon as like a competitive battling kind of hub.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that.
If they did
Yeah.
that, I think people would, because I think wouldn't care as much. Because I think the main thing is I want to, use these Pokemon that I've used for a long time in battling, right? So I think that, and that is something I legitimately can at least understand. The only problem I see with that is that, especially as they make new games going forward, it's like,
You would have to update it.
right. So, but then it's like, well, wait. So do you just like kind of completely overwrite the mechanics that were there before? Right. So
Right.
like that, then it's kind of tricky because I don't think they'd want to like release a brand new Stadium game every generation. That's kind of annoying, right? So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but I do think that would be ideally the best kind of plan to go forward.
I think that I could agree with that, or like doing something where like maybe
Like some kind of camp situation within home where you can at least interact with and play with your old Pokemon.
that would be good too. Yeah, I would like that because I love camping. I love camping.
I'm just so fed up with the National Dexers. Like, it's over. Be quiet.
Oh, I was gonna also. I think I don't know how much work this would be, but it would be like maybe depending on what version you get, you know how there's version exclusives?
Yeah.
So you could like split the Pokemon maybe that way where it's like. But then the problem with that
would be
is
hard.
it would be hard, and you would still need to put those models in. It doesn't really
Mhm.
solve the
Yeah,
model
exactly.
issue.
And then also people are already kind of complaining about the multiple versions thing and version exclusives anyways, that just make that worse. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not really a good situation like either way, but yeah.
Pokemon's unique in that way where eventually something had to give.
Well, right, because here's the thing: if you remember, like this kind of already happened with Gen 2 to Gen 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
People either forget that or they try to justify what happened, and I'm just like, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah,
You
and
still
so I
cannot
think-
get those Pokemon
I
back
think
ever.
If
Yeah.
because the thing is, let's say you had a Pokemon from like Gen 5 or whatever, and you've slowly transferred up to home, and it's not available in Sword and Shield. That doesn't mean it's gone forever, right? Maybe in
Yeah.
Gen 9, it's in the regional decks again, and you can use it, right?
Or
So
even in the Sinnoh remake or something.
whatever, yeah. So anything like that, and also I think part of it is just as precedent. Like for example, if maybe on the transition from Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald to Diamond and Pearl, you could not transfer all the Pokemon over again, and that was sort of the norm for a while. I think people would just wouldn't really care, right?
Yeah.
It's the fact that we are so used to, oh yeah, we can obviously take all of our Pokemon, and we'll always have all of them available, and we just got used to that over, like 15 years or so. I think that's the problem with that in that sense there. So again, I understand people if they're frustrated about it, but I would kind of argue again, like, and here the only other option is, well, they just need more time to develop the games.
And
Right.
that's not going to happen.
And it's not going to happen because it's a multimedia franchise with the anime and the manga and all that kind of shit, so they all have to develop at the same time. Now, granted, I think that ultimately, that is the best choice, honestly, overall, but I also think that's not going to happen. Especially because I remember seeing people complaining that, in 2018, we didn't have, Gen 8 yet. And I'm like, why are you complaining? If we had Gen 8 at 2 years after Gen 7, it would be terrible. But everyone's like, oh my god, it's, we want Gen 8. But now that Sword and Shield did come out, I'm like, oh my god, they rushed it. They should have delayed it. And it's like, you were
Make
just
up your
complaining.
mind.
It's just, ugh.
Make up your mind.
So, yeah. And I know that, like, it's probably different people saying the opposite things, not just one collective voice. But it's still just, it's frustrating when it comes across that way. So
What also frustrates me is when people, like, because they're mad about the national decks, they just rate the entire game as a failure.
Or they harass the creators, like,
Yeah.
don't do that. That's mean.
Or the Cerebi, like...
Don't harass
oh my
Joe.
god, that was so dumb. People were just like, you're a shill for Game Freak. And the only reason he's saying is because he's not, like, flipping his shit, even though he said multiple times he
He's
doesn't
very
like the
upset.
situation. He doesn't like the situation, but he's like, well, it is what it is, so I gotta deal with it.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck else is he supposed to say? Like, come on. Ugh. So,
It's
yeah.
really not that hard.
No. Okay, well, I think I want to move on from that.
Yeah.
Let's talk...
Okay, we talked about camping, so let's go into gameplay.
Okay. I'll be honest, I have never used camp.
Oh, well.
I
not
don't
much
care at
camp.
all about
It's
it.
definitely more fun when you have other people, but I love camping. I love being able to, like, interact with all the Pokemon and seeing how the Pokemon interact with each other, too. And then just playing with them.
Some of the videos are really funny. Like,
Yeah.
you see people's, like, Pokemon fighting.
Yeah.
Although,
Like,
the
or
image that
racing.
I've seen, it's a Wooloo and like a Zamazenta, and it says Zamazenta's like just staring out like looming over the Wooloo, and the text is Zamazenta looks hungry. And it's just like so just stuff like that.
I think I mostly just like the cooking, because I really like that from Diamond and Pearl.
Yeah, I like the cooking a lot, too. And especially I like how it's multiplayer, so everyone can, like, do it together. And it's a nice way to be, like, friendly with the Pokemon, too.
Yeah,
I think the one thing that I kind of miss from Sun and Moon is that you can't, like, immediately heal, like, status conditions.
yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah.
Can't pet them either.
Can't pet them because no stylus, but
Yeah.
I really enjoy camping. I think that's one of my favorite features, actually.
It just personally, I just don't care. So, but again, the option's there. You don't have to use it, right? So,
Yeah.
okay, fine. But yeah, it's no reason for I don't think it like takes something away from the game by having it available, even if you don't care about it. So whatever. Okay, have you ever actually used like the Poke Jobs?
Yes.
Okay, because I've done none of those.
Yeah, I use them because like evolved Pokemon that I catch, because it's an easier way to do it without like having to go and grind the Pokemon to a certain level and then
Yeah, I guess.
yeah.
You also get rewards for it too. Like you get stones, you
get stones,
you can get
money,
like, money, and things like that. You can get
ingredients for curry. Actually,
you can get ingredients for curry.
Okay.
So it's I mean, it's something.
Again, it's something where like I don't think it's, even though I don't use it, it's not like because it's there, it therefore makes it worse or anything.
Yeah.
It just reminds me so much of the mercenary missions in Xenoblade 2, and I'm just like, yeah, I never did those either, except when like I needed to for like a specific reason. So.
I guess I'll let you know if I ever use those.
It's literally the same thing. You just send out some blades that you are not actively using to do a task for a while, and they come back after a certain amount of time, and you get some rewards. But some of them are used in like quests or like to level up certain blade attributes. So it's literally the same thing. It's just sometimes you quote unquote need to do it.
I see.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So again, it's a decent system. I just never found need to use it. The main thing that like I think we can all agree on as like sort of the best to do feature is actually the raids.
Yeah.
And I was not that interested in raids at first.
I thought that I wasn't gonna like raids or Dynamaxing or Gigantamaxing. I was like, this is so stupid. Why do we have to do this? When I heard that we had to do it for gyms, I was like, oh my god, this is. Now that it's. I honestly thought that was going to be the thing I would love the least out of everything, but it's actually one of the things I like.
Yeah. The raids, especially if you're with other people during a raid, it's probably the like legit like the most fun like multiplayer experience I've had with like a Pokemon game.
Honestly, yeah.
So that's really good. I also like how it's sort of like a twist and kind of side addition that's kind of similar to like the Totem Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that that's still around because I like that idea of like sort of a boss Pokemon.
I do
So that
too.
works really well. I will say that Zacian destroys the raids. It's like
really?
Even by myself with shitty Solrock AI and Magikarp AI, I can beat some like 5 stars with just Zacian. So it's there's some that I still have trouble with, but it's like so Zacian is very, very good for raids. It's like perfectly designed to just tear everything apart. But yes, the raids are really fun, and then I like the actual competitive aspect of Dynamax. Like it's apparently like pretty busted, but on like a sort of more casual battling standpoint, I like it because it does, since it is available to anybody, it makes it feel at least a bit more fair. And there is a bit more strategy where it's not, instead of just like, oh, I have a Mega Evolution, I guess I'm going to Mega Evolve it at some point. Here, it's like you actually have to choose which thing am I going to Dynamax in addition to like, when. So it adds a little bit more to it that I like in that sense.
I also found it interesting how, at first, I thought that all Pokemon with, like, Gigantamax forms had it. But as I found out later, it's specific Pokemon have it, and you have to catch them from raids.
You have to get them from the raids.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that, because apparently, like, even if you, like, breed them, I think that the children...
It disappears.
Yeah, it disappears, which is like, so I'm not 100% sure, but it's at least different and interesting, so...
Yeah.
I'm
not sure about it either, because I feel like I'm like, but I would have really loved to use this, like, Pokemon.
Because then you lose your, like, original one, because I have, Corviknight and Dreadnought on my team, but they're both, the original ones from Route 2.
Yeah.
So they're never going to actually Gigantamax, and I'm just like, but I love these guys.
Yeah, and especially if you're trying to, if you did want to, like, competitively train one of them, you have to get, like, you have to find one in the raids that, in addition to just finding one in the first place, but you also have to get one that actually has the IVs you want and the nature you want.
Yeah.
Right? So it's addition thing
really
that's like
hard.
kind of a pain to deal with. I mean, again, you can, because we have the bottle caps now, the mints, you can kind of fudge it better, but it's still annoying, right? So yeah. So again, it's not like the worst thing ever, but at least the idea of like that you kind of, here's these like rare things you have to go find yourself. I think is interesting. But yeah, so the raids are great, and then just in general, the wild area as a whole, I do like quite a lot.
Yeah, I like it too.
I didn't like it at first because I got super lost and I get really frustrated when I get lost in like a map, but it grew on me after a while, like after I learned how to navigate it. Like once you know where you're going, then if you're like like someone who gets like frustrated by traveling, then it gets better. It does get better over time.
And I do like how well, okay. The one thing that I'm a little think is a little weird is how the weather works.
Yeah, the weather can sometimes you'll get a sandstorm that becomes a snowstorm and then it's suddenly sunny.
How it works is that each section in the wild area has its own weather, and that weather stays there for each day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure, like, so it does feel kind of weird where it's like you can just drive, like bike in a straight line and you pass through like 4 weathers in like 5 seconds. But it is a kind of nice because at least like in that day it's consistent. So if you're trying to find a certain thing, you can, and if you just change the date on the Switch, like it'll change the weather as well. So it's fairly easy to kind of find what you want. But it does feel a little bit weird. So I'm thinking like I'm like, what would be better? Would it be better to maybe have it so that like every region has the same weather, but it maybe changes like every hour? Like, would that be better? I'm not sure if that would actually be better or not.
I don't know.
I don't know.
So
it's better if you like miss the point in time, or you're like shiny hunting or something.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, but so it's
Maybe
a little
that's
weird.
why they did it that way.
It's a little weird, but again, I think overall it's like, it's just because I've seen people like, oh my god, this is so weird and wrong, and I'm just like, it's just kind of weird. Who cares, right? It's not a big deal.
I mean, it's the first time they're doing it, so of course it's going to be a little bit like.
Actually, the thing that threw me off the most was the night and day on the routes and in towns.
Oh yeah, that's a little weird.
That was actually the thing that threw me off more because there are like certain Pokemon, like for instance, like Eevee. Like I'm like, oh okay, it's gonna become an Umbreon because it's like 10 o'clock. But then nope, it becomes an Espeon because the route that it's on is sunny and it's like
So
let me tell you what happened with my Obstagoon. So it evolves at night. I was training like en route and it was like daytime there, but I was like at home, like the clock on the Switch, it was like 11 p.m. or something, and I was like, okay, I'm sure he'll evolve now. He didn't. So I was like, wait, what? So I flew to the wild area. I gave my dude a rare candy and he evolves in the wild area, and I'm just like, this is interesting.
Yeah, it's that as you go through the story, the time of day is set. Except the wild area is always whatever your time is, and once you beat the game, the areas are always whatever your time is. So it is weird though if like you're in the wild area and it's nighttime and then you like step into Hammerlock and all of a sudden it's day. It's like that's weird. So I'm not really sure why they did that because again, it's not like in other games you've had sort of like story events that could be a night or day. So it's a kind of a weird choice. Again, does it really matter? Not really. It's just kind of odd.
So keep that in mind when you evolve your Pokemon, I guess.
Yeah, I had to worry about that for Snom because it also involves friendship at night. So, but I am curious, like how, like again in like future games, how is like the wild area? Are they going to continue it? I just thought of something.
Huh?
Let's assume they do Sinnoh remakes next. It's like the next main game.
I think I know where you're going with this.
What if they sort of turn Mount Coronet into like a wild area?
Oh,
that would be interesting.
Because it's an indoor, it's a cave wild area.
Yeah.
But it would have different sections. They could expand it because honestly, Mount Coronet's sort of the central feature, but like it's kind of boring. So I feel like you could actually. That's actually an interesting idea. Because I was thinking, like, where could they do a wild area in Sinnoh? And I was like, the marsh? That's kind of not that great. But I think that actually could work. And it would be different enough so it wouldn't feel like you're just copying Galar.
Yeah.
definitely. And I think also there were points where you could go outside of the cave too, and then you can play with like different like topographies and stuff. Like point could be a desert.
Mount Coronet's huge. It's like most of Sinnoh.
Yeah, but the main problem is that it just kind of all looks the same in the original games.
Yeah.
So this would allow them to really expand it and have each area kind of look more unique and interesting.
Spice it up.
Damn, that's a really good idea. Now I'm going to be like disappointed if they don't do that. But Yeah, okay, so that's good. Especially, like, a Gen 9 or whatever, like, how this is gonna go. I've definitely heard people say, like, this would be perfect for, like, an Australia region as, like, an outback.
That would be really cool.
Or
Or like Africa or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I definitely want them to continue it. I don't think they're gonna go full on, like, open world in the sense that, like, you have the wild area is everywhere, but you have, like, cities and dungeons scattered throughout. I don't think they're gonna do that.
I do like how it's in the middle and then the roots are kind of
I like that too.
encircling it.
Yeah, so I think the balance now is good.
I think I also like the fact where a lot of the old Pokemon are in the wild area, like what Alan mentioned and stuff, where it's kind of like, here's an area where you can get all the Pokemon that you know, like, very well and stuff, but it also entices you to see what's in the roots and stuff too.
Yeah.
I think the only new Pokemon that are only in the wild area, I think, are the Qfant line and the Dreepy line. I think those are the only ones that are only in the wild area. So, yeah. So, yeah, wild area is good. Again, the raids are great. Is that ever for like kind of new modes and stuff? I think so.
I think so.
I think so.
So the only thing I kind of want to talk about, I guess, is just like kind of the region as a whole. I like a lot of the design of areas and sort of the overall feel of the places.
I especially like the caves, like what they did with the mines and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the mines are nice.
The mines are really cool.
I like the mines. I do like the look of the mines. My only problem is that that's it.
Yeah.
There's no other caves or other kind of like dungeony areas.
Oh yeah, there are only 2 mines.
So and that's the one thing where I'm like, I wish there was more of that, because like, again, there's like the Slumbering Weald and I guess Glenwood Tangle and Searchester Bay, but like they feel just like, oh, here's just kind of more. It's just a route that has a bit of a different like design to it, I guess. It's not the same to me. So that's the one thing where I wish that there was a little bit more in terms of the region. In that sense, and yeah, so to me the region is like fine. Again, especially if you take the wild area out of it, I think it's okay. I think it could be, and more kind of dungeons would help. And I will say, I am legitimately disappointed that Spikemuth is not like an actual like city.
Yeah, I was
I really wanted this like grungy like punk city that like, full on has like NPCs in a shop and like a boutique and like all this stuff to go through. Instead, it's basically just like it's kind of a dungeon.
It's a straight
in a
line.
sense. Yeah, so I was like, man, that's annoying.
Yeah.
I thought there would be like clothes and stuff in there.
Yeah, I want to like go as punk as possible, but it's like nope.
Like kind of like a town where you could buy the Team Skull gear, like you could buy Team Yell gear and like dress. That would be fun.
I mean, the dark uniform or whatever is pretty close to that, but still, it's just like, I don't know.
Still, though.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm like, man, that's kind of like, it's literally a straight line. But like, other cities, like, I think are fine. Like, Searchester, I think, looks really good. That's one especially. Hammerlock is impressive. Motostoke's pretty good. I even though there isn't, again, kind of like what I said about the new Pokemon, there aren't really anything that I can point to that I'm like, this is amazing, but just in general, I like the soundtrack.
The soundtrack is really nice. I also really like it, especially like the
wild area.
The wild area.
The bagpipes.
With like the bagpipes. That is like one of my favorite tracks, actually. Whenever it comes on, I'm like, yes! I feel like I'm in an epic.
Yeah, I don't have anything that I would say I absolutely love, but like I can't think of anything that I don't like. I think everything hits everything, and I think probably highlights
the themes for all the like rivals and characters too. Like I like Marnie's team and stuff like that, and I was like, oh,
I actually the one that's probably like the most that I can remember is I actually like the Zacian and Zamazenta themes. I like a lot when you fight them. And I also like how Slumbering Weald has like the kind of wolf howling in the background.
Yeah.
So I like that a good amount. But yeah, and then also, well, if you haven't fought Raihan yet, the one route that you haven't gone to yet, actually, I like the song for that route.
It has. Oh yeah, right. I forget
10,
sometimes
I
each route has its own theme.
Yeah, so I like that track, and yeah, so overall soundtrack is pretty good. Yeah, to me, well, again, I don't really want to. Overall opinion is I need to kind of talk about like story and characters to really get to an overall opinion, and we're not gonna do that yet. But yeah, so overall, I guess for now I can say that, like, I think people who think that this is, like, the worst Pokemon game of all time are just wrong.
Yeah.
And are there some things I wish were a bit better, had a bit more stuff going on? Sure, but, and so I've seen one of the arguments is that, like, yeah, the game is not horrible, but you would think by Gen 8 it should be better than it is. I can understand that idea.
But I guess the thing is that this is also the first main series game that's on a home console too.
That, and again, the 3-year dev cycle hinders amount of stuff you can put in anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. Overall, I'm decent with the game. It's definitely not my favorite Pokemon game, but it's definitely not my least favorite either.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's kind of where I'm putting it. I'm not, again, I am still not 100% sure if I were to rank all the games exactly where I'd put it. But it's middle-ish. So, yeah, middle-ish maybe, I think probably leaning slightly higher than True Neutral in terms of the rankings, but I'm not certain. And again, I didn't want to talk about the story and characters with you, so.
Yeah,
we will get to that
later
in a bit.
And you've actually beaten the game and also actually done the post-game story stuff, because there's a bit of that.
Ooh, okay.
I've seen one thing about the post game, and that's just an image. And
is it the
wow.
2 characters?
Yeah,
they're interesting.
Interesting is good.
Yes, they leave a 1-star Yelp review. You'll understand what I mean when you get to it.
1 out of 5.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, like yeah. You'll see.
Okay, well, as long as they're entertaining, I'm just like,
yeah,
maybe that would make up for their design. That's the only thing I know about them, though.
Cara, do you know what we're talking about?
No,
okay,
I have no idea.
Don't look it up. It should be seen to be believed.
Okay.
It's just a really funny image, that's all.
But yeah, we've spent almost an hour talking about just Pokemon, but are we ready to move on?
I guess we'll move on to other games?
Yeah, I'm trying to think though, like, is there any other game I did, like, anything with in 2019?
I did Breath of the Wild.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I guess you can tell
finish,
us about
I didn't finish, but I guess speaking of open world and stuff like that, because a lot of like people were comparing Pokemon to, but maybe it'll be like Breath of the Wild, of which, as someone who's played Breath of the Wild, I mean, it works for Zelda pretty well because you're not going out there and like catching the monsters, stuff like that.
Oh my god, I'm thinking of some of the monsters and I'm like, that would not make a good Pokemon.
No. So I'm like,
Just
I don't know.
Moblins at people.
Oh my god. Yeah, that wouldn't work out very well.
No.
But Breath of the Wild. Okay, so I guess disclaimer: this is my first Legend of Zelda game. So
I've only fully played one, so it's okay.
I can't. I am not an expert on Zelda. I can't say in comparison to the other games how I would view it or anything. So I'm basically looking at it as just a game, of which this is technically my first open world game.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually enjoy it quite a bit, especially like exploring the map. I like, even though at first I was like, wait, what do you mean you're not like leading me through the plot and everything? I just choose everything. At first I was like, oh my god, this is so scary. And then after a while I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is kind of fine and stuff. There were some mishaps that I had, like for instance, there was apparently a game event that was supposed to take place, but since I went straight to the city, I missed the game event that was supposed to lead you to the city.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
It was really hard getting to that tower.
Yeah, I only got to that tower after the city, but yeah, I enjoy it quite a bit. The story, it's just a very mesmerizing game. It's just very pretty and stuff like that. I know, well, Mayan has watched me play it and stuff like that.
I've seen stuff, but yeah.
Yeah.
I was not 100% sure about it because the fact that it is so directionless, I was like kind of put off by that.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. But at the same time, I was like, okay, they give you enough things to do to like figure yourself out, and you can take like breaks, which I guess are nice, where there was like one quest where I was like, I don't want to do that right now, and then I could just goof off and do something for a little bit.
Mhm.
and then come back to it.
Yeah, so maybe my kind of worry is like unfounded, but for me, like how I feel right now, the games that I've played that are open world-ish, I like it. I like the ones where it's like, here is a mission, you can go to this place that you know about, and there's multiple ways to kind of get there, and you can kind of do what you want in the meantime. And if you
Right.
want
Yeah,
to, you could
yeah.
kind of go do this other stuff, but you always have this thing, you always have the next thing very clearly
Like an
pointed out to you.
objective.
Yeah, and so like Horizon Zero Dawn does that really well, and then actually if you want to go further back, like the fucking Sly 2 and Sly 3 do that basically. So and I love those games. So again, I'm not to say that like, oh, I think Breath of the Wild is terrible. No, obviously not. I haven't played it, and it didn't particularly grab me in that sense. Will I ever play it? Honestly, just knowing myself and my schedule and how even if I do play another game, it's probably gonna be something new. Probably not. But that's not through the fact that like, I do like it. I don't want to play it. It's just lazy and dumb. So.
It's definitely a good game if anyone is interested in it, but it's not
Yeah.
like
I think most people know that at this point, though.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think they need my recommendation to do that. But yeah, what other games did
I even double checked. I'm like, was Far Cry 5 this year? No, that was last year. I'm like, I didn't even like watch any like playthroughs really. I watched a bit of like a Death Stranding playthrough, but then I kind of fell off of it after a bit because it just wasn't too much happening. So I'm just like, I don't know.
I got Smash and Mario Kart.
I
But
played the
there's
first
not
like
really
two-
much you can say.
yeah, it's Mario Kart Smash. I mean, yeah. I played the first
Fun
like
for
2
everyone.
hours of the Xenoblade 2 DLC, the Torna stuff, but on the plane. But again, it's not. I didn't stop because I didn't like it. I just stopped because I was on. The plane ride was over, and then I just never picked it up again. So, yeah, this year's been
Odyssey this year, or was it earlier?
or what?
No, Odyssey.
Odyssey was 2017.
Oh no.
Yeah, 2017. I was looking back. 2017 was stacked. There was so much good stuff in 2017. It was kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
makes sense.
Because again, you had Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, Xenoblade 2, just for Nintendo stuff. Then you had like Nier Automata. You had was Persona 5 2017 or was that 2016?
It might have been.
I think it might have been 17.
Might have been 17. I know Royal came out in Japan this
Yeah.
year, and it's getting localized next year.
Yeah. So let's see. Oh, 2016, or was that the Japanese release? Oh, it says 2016. Well, okay. Anyway, whatever.
Maybe it was simultaneous.
Whatever. But like,
But-
yeah, I know that there's a lot more that I'm forgetting. Was maybe the God of War thing, or is that no? That was 2018. Whatever. Doesn't matter. But the point is, like, I was looking at like, wow, 2017 there was so much. Then I'm just looking at 2018 and 2019, and it's like, yeah, just not as much interest in me personally. So, But I don't know, Mai, did you do anything besides Pokemon?
I kind of started Tales of Vesperia, but then
Oh yeah, Tales of the Vesperia.
that was back when I didn't have my own Switch, so I played on Terra's Switch, and then you got Breath of the Wild, and then we switched over, and then I didn't go back to it yet. I haven't even like gotten the full party yet, so
And
I
you've-
can't say too much about it just yet. But I mean,
And you've played like half of the first chapter of Xenoblade 2. So
yeah, I'm gonna probably start over whenever I get back to it.
you might as well because you probably totally forgot everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's fine.
Yeah. So
So I didn't really do much for games.
fair enough.
Oh no, wait. When did I start that file? I got the Story of Seasons Trio of Towns, I think maybe last year or something. So I made a little bit of progress with that. The Friends of Mineral Town remake came out in Japan this year, so I'm waiting for that to get localized. Because that was my first Harvest Moon game, so I want to relive that in.
Oh, I also hope to, well, obviously finish Breath of the Wild and also finish Vesperia, but I also hope to start next year is Okami, which I played it on the Wii, which was maybe not the best console to play Okami on, especially with the drawing thing, so I'm hoping with the Switch remake,
better.
it'll be much better, yeah. It'll just be nice seeing it remastered and stuff like that.
Yeah, for me, 2020, like, there's the Xenoblade 1 remaster. I think I am gonna get that. Because even
You
in
might as well.
yeah, especially because in the trailer they showed there's a part of the game that they show that is it was cut in the original game, so there is
Oh,
definitely
the arm?
the shoulder.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely going to be a thing that like there is for certain like legit new stuff. So and I do wonder like if they're because like how in Xenoblade 2 you can have like Shulk and Fiora as like blades as kind of like a an Easter egg kind of thing. I wonder if they're going to somehow try to like do a reverse of that, right? Because
I guess they could.
yeah, I'm not really sure how because like there's not a blade system in the original. My guess is like they might have like a weapon skin where the Monado could look like the Aegis sword. That's my guess. There's something like that maybe, or maybe like another just alternate costume kind of thing. But yeah, so I'd be curious to check that out, see what they add. Besides that, I've said this before, but I've been meaning to get into Persona 5. I just don't have a PS4, so I think because one of my plans for 2020 is to move, and once I do that, I think I'll have a bit more time like on my own and to feel like a bit more freedom to do stuff myself. And then I'm thinking then I might get a PS4, and I would definitely get Persona 5. I guess I could get the Persona 5 Royal. And then there's several other PS4 games that I like want to get. Like for example, like the Spider-Man game. I actually think that could be interesting.
Wait, is Kingdom Hearts 3 this year? Or was it last year?
Kingdom Hearts 3 was the beginning of this year, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the only thing I'm really. I mean, there's the Final Fantasy VII remake, which like, I don't know. Like I honestly never really cared that much, but I might look into it maybe, depending if the combat's particularly interesting or not. But the thing is, we don't really know like that much Nintendo stuff for 2020. Literally, I think the only thing we know is we know the Xenoblade Remaster and we know Animal Crossing, and I literally think that's it that we know so far. Because they usually have a January Direct on stuff for the rest of the year. So at this point, we don't really know anything else. And like, I know Animal Crossing is a big deal for a lot of people. I don't care. So there, I don't have any stake in that game.
I also don't have a stake in
I
Animal
have
Crossing.
no idea what they're planning on releasing. I mean, hopefully Harvest Moon. That's mainly the thing I'm waiting for. So
yeah, the main things I've heard. Okay, maybe the Diamond Pearl remakes could be this year. Maybe, I don't know. I almost feel like they might want to wait.
After everything, they might take their time with it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm thinking it might be 2021.
I mean, I wouldn't mind that
Yeah.
either.
Like concentrating on like the raids and releasing like new Gigantamax Pokemon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
So there's that.
they could do that for like a year.
Yeah. Besides that, I know there was the reveal that the Breath of the Wild sequel is in development.
Oh yeah. I'm excited about that.
That looks interesting just because it seems to their like Majora's Masking it, where it's like, here's kind of the same thing as before, but it's way weirder. And I'm like, I'm down for that. So that, and then there's also rumors, though there's no confirmation at all, that there might be sort of like an Odyssey 2. Which that could definitely be a thing. So maybe one of those would be kind of next year, but I highly doubt both are coming this year. People are still talking about Metroid Prime 4, but since they restarted development, I highly doubt that's coming this year either. This thing, so yeah, I don't know. We'll find out probably, in a couple weeks, honestly. So, yeah. Well, do we have any more video game stuff, or shall we transition to movies?
I guess we'll transition to
Movies.
Yeah.
I did not see that many. In addition to all the stuff we've already talked about.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that many.
In addition to everything we've watched, can I think of any movies that I've watched, like...
You mean besides, like, Spider-Man Far From Home?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that a little bit.
I guess we could talk about that.
I talked about my vague opinion of it when I made that, like, my kind of MCU ranking video in July. But my take is basically that, like, it doesn't do anything wrong. I just didn't personally get attached to it as much as I did Homecoming. But it's still a very good movie and doesn't, do anything wrong in that case.
I cried in the theater. We were like abroad, so.
Oh yeah, you saw it. Yeah, I forgot.
We saw it in Japan.
So we went with our friend, and we went at like a really late screening.
Yeah, we went at a late screening. It was really strange because you're in a theater and it's dark and everything, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're done with the movie. And then in my head, I'm like, okay, now we have to like drive home and everything. And then we go out, and I'm like, this
This isn't New Jersey.
Yeah, this is in New Jersey. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And like also, we were watching it in English, but there were Japanese subtitles.
Right.
That was really interesting.
That was also really interesting, yeah.
But I was crying in the theater because they mentioned Tony, and I was like, no.
I do
And
think
like the end credit
yes,
scenes.
yes. I am very curious. Okay, the whole like Sony shit that happened for like a month that scared everyone. I was just from a creative standpoint. I was like, no, don't drop the story at this point. Like we need to know what happens. Like So yeah.
Like that was like the worst time because by itself, without the Sony stuff,
Yeah.
it's a pretty bad cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then with the Sony stuff, it's like, oh my god, we might never actually know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, because then
now.
it's just like, is Peter dead now? Like,
I
what?
know I believe the deal right now is that it's confirmed we're gonna have a third Spider-Man in 2021. And then I
Okay.
believe it's also confirmed that he will appear in some other MCU film.
Okay.
Right? So like how he was in Civil War, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be something like that. I think that's what's confirmed, and then after that it's basically up in the air, I think.
Okay.
So at least it seems like we should end this specific story.
At least we know
Yeah.
the end of the arc.
Right. So then from there, okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't feel. Is there? I don't know. I feel like. Is there too much to say about Far From Home? I don't know.
I think that's all I can like think about right off the bat.
Yeah, for me, like everything is good. I just, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
I
yeah.
kind of regret not buying the Spider-Man stickers at the theater.
I tried to convince you.
Yeah, I know, you tried to convince me. I should have bought those Spider-Man stickers. There was one where he was holding a bunch of ice cream and a cone. It was so cute.
It was really cute. I got a Spider-Man doll.
Yeah. That's my regret.
Okay. Well, in addition to Far From Home, I did see another superhero movie, and I actually did talk about this a little bit in a discussion we did have already. But I saw Shazam back in April. And I really want us to see this movie. I want you two to see this movie because
You're the second person who wants us to see this film.
it's easily the best DC EU movie. Easily. It's not perfect. There are a couple things which are just kind of like okay. But the main thing that it does with like, you know, the whole companionship between the kids and, you know, Shazam and that thing is done really well. And the whole, like, the trailers and at least like the reviews, they're like, oh, it's kind of like a quirky, like comedic kind of movie. This movie gets dark at points. Like, it's PG-13 for a damn good reason. And
Wow.
the beginning of the movie is legit like, oh shit, they put that in the movie? Like, it's like, whoa. Like, so I kind of want you to see the reaction to some of that. It's like, it's kind of crazy how, like, kind of messed up this movie is. So, yeah, so that, I really like that movie. I'm not sure, again, in terms of, I give it like a numerical score, I'm not 100% sure, but, yeah, I definitely want us to see that at some point. Well, any other movies you have to mention? I have a few more to go through that I've seen.
I want to see Frozen 2.
I want to see the Mr. Rogers movie.
And I want to see the Mr. Rogers movie.
Okay,
God.
you would think that I, of course, would have no desire to see Frozen 2 whatsoever. But I've heard that there's something in it that, like, pisses people off who like the first movie, and now I'm, like, kind of morbidly curious. But I'm like, it's definitely not curious enough to, like, pay money to see it, though.
I guess we could watch it together.
I heard that there is a rock ballad, which intrigues me.
A rock
God.
ballad.
Yes,
Ugh.
as one of the songs. So
I-
I'm like,
I don't know. So I've also heard that it's kind of like the story's kind of messy. So I don't know. Again, I'm not like based on like the trailers that we saw. I was like, wow, the trailers actually don't look terrible. So I guess it seems like what I think my reaction would be to this would be if I actually saw the full movies. I'd probably think it wasn't terrible. So like I'd probably fit in that sense for me. So I guess congratulations. I didn't hate it. I think. Oh, I'll find out if I do see it, right? But yeah. Also, even if the movie didn't come out this year, were there any movies that you did see this year?
I'm trying to think. I feel like there were, but I have to think of what they.
Well, you want me to go through a couple of things that I've seen?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the plane to come back from seeing you guys, I saw 2 movies. I saw Homecoming again, and then I saw 8th Grade.
Oh,
okay.
Now 8th Grade, I heard that it was a good movie, and I've heard that it is a legitimately good like representation of 8th grade, basically. And yeah, it is. This movie is uncomfortable because that's the point.
Okay.
8th grade is awkward and uncomfortable, and the movie conveys that very well. You really do feel like the characters, where it's like the characters do some dumb shit, or they're worried about something that's not important, but like you remember that this character would be worried about this, right?
Right.
And it does kind of relish in its awkwardness at times, but like that's the point. So it doesn't feel like it's like talking down to like, oh, these dumb teenagers, they don't know, right? It doesn't feel like that. And there is legitimate like serious stuff that's brought up too. So I think it's well made, and the emotion works well. There is kind of a good thing that's brought up in the movie. It's a messed up topic, but I'm glad they addressed it. Especially for people who are at this age, because it's one of those things where it's like, oh, they're just kids, they don't know, but it's like, no, they do, right? So, there's that, and yeah, I think it'd be interesting for you two to see it. I don't know if you would like the movie, but it would be interesting for you to see it, I think. So there's that. So, a couple friends that I went to high school with who are still around, for some reason, one of them really wanted to see Rambo Last Blood. So we watched Rambo Last Blood. It was not very good. Like, I don't know anything about Rambo besides, like, it's Stallone killing people. Okay, I don't know, right? This movie there's the first 2/3 of the movie, and there's the last third of the movie. The first 2/3 of this movie is literally Taken. Like, it's just the movie Taken, but with Stallone. Like, it's like so close to Taken. And it's just, again, we didn't really like Taken either, and it's like, does this really do anything better? No. It's just kind of generic thing. It's a little bit more violent and a little bit grosser,
Right.
So it's that. And then, at the end of that first 2/3, there is something that happens that I was legitimately like, huh, I did not expect you to do that, and I actually give you credit for doing it. I'm not gonna say what it is, just in case someone cares about spoilers, but so it's something where I was like, huh, that's actually kind of ballsy. I didn't expect it. But then the last third of the movie is basically just, it's R-rated Home Alone, almost. Like, he's like holed up in his house, and these like tunnels under the house, and he sets up all these traps to catch these people, and I'm just like, this is dumb. Like, it's just dumb.
So they dropped the ball.
Well, the whole thing's just kind of not that great. But, like, again, they had that one thing they gave them credit for, and, like, again, is any of it terrible? No, but it's just not very engaging. And I'm like, even if you, like, really wanted to see, like, kind of violent, kind of gross out, kind of death stuff, there are things that do that more. Right? And, like, the only thing that really stands out and a lot of the times when there is a kind of a gross death, it's kind of, like, hard to see it. So, the only time when, like, you really do see it is, like, the final kind of confrontation. And it's so ridiculous that I'm like, this is just stupid. So, I don't think it's very good. I mean, again, even if you like this kind of stuff, I feel like there's better options. So, like, I'd probably give it, like, a 3. Like, whatever, right? Again, not horrible, but there's just better things to see, even if you do care about this. So, whatever. Let's see. And then, okay, same group of friends.
Oh, no.
We were like, we want to watch a bad movie. What did we watch? And I was thinking of stuff, and then a friend brought up a little movie, and I was like, yes! How did I not think of this?
Huh?
We watched Twisted Pair.
Twisted
which
What's
is
that?
Neil Breen's most recent movie.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
It's
You watched it drunk, right?
yes.
God.
Drunk
You
with
have
friends
to.
is the way to do it, and it was glorious. I will say, from what I know about Neil Breen's movies, I think this is the most like comprehensible.
Really?
That's not saying much at all, but I think I kind of understood what was happening. If you don't know, Neil Breen is like infamously horrible. Like, just again, Google some shit, like YouTube videos of stuff from his stuff. It's horrendously bad. Like, you know, literal just like, let's take an explosion and just literally paste it on top of like everything in the screen. It's so terrible, but like it's a beautiful kind of terrible that I appreciate. So yeah, there's just, again, random shit just happens and it's just so if you want to see a terrible movie, that's a good one to go for. And then okay, I got 3 more. I watched like about a couple weeks ago. I was like, hey, what happened to that like Batman versus the Ninja Turtles thing? So I looked that up and I watched the movie. It's what you expect it would be. And I say that in like as good of an angle as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear that the people who made it like Batman, they like the Ninja Turtles, they throw them together and they do the kind of crazy shit you would want them to see. That like you wouldn't be able to see otherwise. Right? So, for example, the Ninja Turtles thing is that they have, you know, there's this mutagen thing that mutates people, right? That's how they got to how they are. And so what happens? They mutate the Batman villains. And you see Harley Quinn as like a rabid dog, and Mr. Freeze as a polar bear, and like Scarecrow as an actual crow, and Joker is like a snake. And it's like, it's just great. It's just crazy shit happening. And it's just like, you know, so again, it's very clear that it's its own thing. It's silly, it's kind of dumb, but it's clear that it's having fun with what it is, and it knows what it is, right? So, if you like Batman and you like the Ninja Turtles, you're gonna like this. If you don't like Batman and you don't like the Ninja Turtles, guess what? You're probably not gonna like it, but like you probably figured that out by now, right? So, it's what you expect it to be, but that's a good thing, right? So that's my feeling for that. Does either of you have any other movies to add before I go to my last 2, because they're a little bit more to these 2?
Okay, so I did watch one movie that I remember. It was not actually from this year, but I guess I watched it this year. It's actually from 1939, apparently.
Okay.
Oh.
Because my mom likes watching old movies, and normally I kind of like see a couple scenes of them, but this one actually was pretty interesting. It's called Young Mr. Lincoln, and it was like Lincoln doing a court case and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
And since it's from like 1939, that, relatively speaking, means that like
It was pretty recent too.
yeah,
When it was...
it was recenter. It would be like if there was a Kennedy film.
Yeah, there could be people alive at the time.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting in that respect. I like the film. I mean, obviously, because it's from 1939, you have to get over that there are some nuances and stuff like that.
Some depictions of certain types of people.
Well, actually, since it didn't really have to do with race so much.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Yeah, it took place when he was younger. So
Okay.
this is like before his presidency. So he's in like Illinois and stuff like that, and doing a court case there and stuff like that. So it was pretty interesting. Actually, I should maybe put it on the list. It might be the oldest film that we have on the list.
Yeah, you added a thing that was like old, but I don't think it was that old. But yeah.
Yeah, that was another movie that I saw, which is but we could talk more about that when we get to that film.
Okay.
It was another. Basically, I'll be the one who adds the really old films sometimes.
Man, all we need now is a silent film, and then we're all set.
Do I know any silent films?
I know none, so.
All I
either.
know is that there was a time where my grandparents came over, and my brother thought that since they sometimes have a hard time keeping up with like English movies and stuff like that, that a silent film might be something interesting. So he tried looking up on Netflix for like a silent film, and we found one, but they both ended up falling asleep. So,
Mm.
but that I think it's from like 1920 or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but yeah,
Okay.
that was my movie.
Nice.
Oh, you got anything?
Do I? I'm gonna take that as a no. I don't
Okay.
think I mean, if you asked me in 2017, then I would have a few, like, interesting Japanese samurai movies because I took a class on that. But I might put a few on the list because they're kind of just interesting to watch because it's actual samurai films made by Japanese people instead of
Right.
weird white people.
So
All
what
those
we're
weird
learning
white
from
people.
what we're learning from this discussion is we would have had more to say in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
Between the games and the movies.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, maybe one day I'll just talk about, maybe probably when we watch the first of the samurai movies, I'll talk about one that I don't want us to watch because it was really gruesome. So let's not do that.
Yeah, I've seen a
Okay.
couple of those, and yeah, there was one that I was pretty gross. I don't remember the names of any ones I saw.
Is
but
it Harakiri?
I have no idea. I don't remember.
Okay. Okay.
So what were your other two films,
Okay,
Alan?
so these last two films I saw within the last 3 days. 4 days.
What?
Last
What?
4 days.
Excuse me?
One of these was a film. Well, they're both films that came out this year. One of
Okay.
them was one that I wanted to see. I was curious to see it first when it was announced, and then when the trailers came out, I'm like, "Oh, this actually looks pretty good." But it could. But I was like, it could be bad.
Oh,
But
wait,
I think
you
it's
said
gonna be
Joker?
good. And so I was like, I wasn't sure. And then it came out, and everyone loved it, and I never got a chance to see it. So it finally came out digitally. So I watched Joker on Tuesday, 4 days ago,
So it is Joker.
and it's very interesting. There's a lot to unpack in this movie. Let me put it this way. I actually think you should see it.
Okay.
Because again, like the reason I specifically like just kind of wanted to see it myself because I was like, you two are not going to want to see it. It's going to be whatever, right? But it's not as gross as I thought it would be.
Okay. That's a good thing. That was
There's more
gonna be,
psychological?
Well, okay, you see, like the main thing is you see some people get shot and there's some blood from that. Okay.
Okay.
The worst part is there is a point where someone gets stabbed,
Cool.
but you don't like fully see it. You do
Okay.
kind of see
Oh,
like,
it's implied?
you do kind of see you see the aftermath kind of. And at
Okay.
the same time, you can see it coming.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not. I don't think it's that bad, but it's very. There's a lot here, and I think the thing that because I'd heard a lot of the stuff that people generally say, but what I hadn't heard so much was how the character, the guy's name is his character's name is Arthur. How the things that happen to him are sort of a micro scale example of what's happening to like the society as a whole of what's in the movie.
Oh.
And for example, stop me if this sounds familiar. A billionaire is running for public office, and and so there's kind of and the thing is that it's Thomas Wayne, the billionaire, running for mayor of Gotham. And there's a scene very early where Arthur lives with his mother, who's like 60, 70 years old or something, and she's like not super great in terms of her health, but she's not like bedridden, but she's kind of right, not all there. And they're watching like the news, and his mother is like they see Thomas Wayne is like getting an interview or something, and his mother's like, "That's Thomas Wayne. He's gonna save the city." And Arthur's like, "How do you know that?" And she's like, "Well, because the news people said so." And it's like, it's like that kind of subtle jab at like the news media kind of commentary of like, yeah, of course the billionaire's gonna save everybody. You know what I mean? So there's stuff like that. And just the general, because I'd seen people kind of make like memes about like how Joker is like sort of this like leftist like symbol or whatever, and I was like, how does that work? I see how it works. It makes sense, and it's people who say that this film like glorifies violence are just wrong. That's not what happens, and you never ever feel that like, yeah, this Arthur guy is like a good person. No, okay, you do not get that sense ever. But, and I don't even know if you can say that you feel sorry for him, because that's not, I don't even know if that's true. It maybe, but it is clear, because here's the thing, he makes the decisions of what happens himself, but it is clear that if he was in a different environment with, you know, better social programs, and he actually had the help that he should have gotten, he would not have had to make those choices.
Okay.
And so this is also kind of commentary on the, you know, austerity measures and sort of like, you know, that all these poor people expect too much from us and that kind of stuff, right? It's very much a societal commentary, even separate from the specific Jokerisms of what's going on.
Okay.
So it's very interesting in that sense. And the thing is, you might think that, well, I know how this is going to end. He's going to become Joker, right? So, like, wouldn't you think that'd be a disadvantage of the movie? But it's not, because the movie takes full advantage of the fact that you know he's going to become Joker, and in order for him to become Joker, bad shit has to happen. And so the movie, like, there's this sense of dread throughout the entire movie where you're like, something's bad's gonna happen, something bad's gonna happen, something bad is totally gonna happen, and it's like, it's there the entire time. But even then, it still does kind of manage to surprise you at moments. So it's very interesting. It's like, do I like how would I rate this? I'm not sure. Like, okay, would I give this a 10? I don't know. It should be watched. Do I think every person who watches this is going to like it? No. But it's worth seeing.
Okay.
So that's kind of my framework on it. It's very interesting, and there's a lot here.
I mean, I'm just glad that it's not, you know, incel propaganda, because that was the main.
Definitely not.
That was the main like fear that a lot of people had.
There is a relationship angle part in this somewhat, but it's not the way you think it is. And it's not. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about it without just telling you, and I don't want to tell you. So, yeah, this is kind of a hard movie to talk about without spoilers, but yeah. So, I'm gonna want to put it on the list for us to check out, because I think you will get something out of this more than what you might have thought originally.
Okay.
Can you put young Mr. Lincoln too?
Yeah, sure, we'll do that once we're in recording. So, then. Now, these last couple days have been finals days at school. So, how it's split up is that Wednesday was first and second period finals, Thursday was third and fourth, and Friday was fifth and sixth. So, now I teach physics, first, second, third, and fourth. My fifth period is my prep period. My sixth period is me overseeing, like, this online kind of remedial class. They didn't have a final. So I literally went to the vice principal and was like, hey, are they even supposed to, like, show up on Friday? Like, how's it supposed to work, right? And she said no, and she's like, you don't have to show up either. And I'm like, oh. Okay. And I was like, you know, I haven't done anything with my dad in a long time. And, you know, we have seen, you know, some movies together. And, hey,
Star Wars
the new Star Wars movie comes out today, and I'm like, but it's opening day, and like it's gonna suck. And even if I go in like the afternoon, there's probably a shitload of people. But I'm like, wait a minute, if I don't have to do my sixth period final at all, that means we can go see the movie at like 11 a.m.
Oh.
So we saw Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh.
How was it?
That's a good question.
Okay.
You know how I said Joker's hard to talk about without spoiling it?
Yeah.
This is harder.
Oh. Did you at least figure out what the ride at Disney World is probably going to be about?
No. This movie should be seen so you can kind of just witness what people chose to do.
Okay.
I do not hate the movie. I do not love the movie.
So you're neutral?
I don't know.
Okay. We're
There's
starting
a
at neutral.
lot that happens. There's stuff that I like, there's stuff that I don't. And there's stuff that I think the biggest problem about this movie is something that is not in this movie.
So it's something that they left out?
I
Help
don't
it
want to
me?
say anything else. Again, this is
Okay.
very much like it's extremely hard to talk about this without spoiling things. I don't think is this like okay. If you do not care about Star Wars, would you want to see this movie? No. If you do care about Star Wars and want to see how things go, but you're not like a super fan or whatever, is this movie worth seeing? Yes. With that inflection in my voice. So
Okay.
This is one of those movies where I want you guys to see it, and I want to just like talk about it for like an hour because there's a lot. Like literally, my dad and I we saw it, and then we're like after we saw it, we're just like, we just saw the movie, and we're just like, how do we talk about this? Like, there's a lot to unpack here, and it's just like, oh boy. So yeah, if someone told me, okay, so for the Last Jedi stuff, people saying this is like the worst movie of all time, it's like worse than all the prequels and whatever, and I was like, that's bullshit. There's no, I have said that if you tell me that, I can understand if you maybe don't like the Last Jedi, but if you tell me that Last Jedi is worse than Attack of the Clones, you're crazy. Okay. If someone told me that they thought this movie was the worst Star Wars movie, I would disagree, but I kind of understand where they're coming from.
Oh.
Okay.
Again, I disagree, but to me there is
But you
at
understand
least,
the
there is
sentiment,
at
I
least
guess?
some way I could see someone thinking that versus I could not see someone thinking that for Last Jedi.
Okay.
But again,
Okay.
I do not think I do not agree with that statement. And again, I think the biggest problem with this movie is not actually in this movie. So, because that's the thing, you have to judge this as a movie by itself. You have to judge it as the third movie in this latest trilogy, but you also have to judge it as the 9th Star Wars movie.
Right.
You have to judge it from all of those angles, and that makes things complicated.
Great.
So this is a complicated movie. And I think I should leave it there.
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess from movies, do we go to TV shows?
Yes. So let me count how many things I have listed here in my
boy.
notes. I have. Wait, I miscounted. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, somebody spread multiple lines on my phone. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Granted, some of these I have very little to say. But
Okay.
I have a feeling I should probably go last. So I could power through these.
Are you sure you don't want to go first and power through them?
Are you sure?
Yeah, that might be a better idea.
Okay. Oh boy. Alright. So, the first thing I want to mention are shows that I tried to watch.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, actually, one thing to add to that then. I tried to watch the very first episode of Teen Titans. I got like 5 minutes in, and then I was like, I'm just not into this, I'm gonna stop. I don't consider that as I don't like the show, I'm not gonna watch it. I just felt I was probably just not in the right headspace and not in the mood for it or whatever at the moment. So I might come back to that. We'll see. Okay.
Okay.
Now a show that I did try to watch, and I got I think like 2 or 3 episodes in. I tried to watch Star vs. the Forces of Evil.
Oh,
Okay.
that's.
I had heard it was a good show, and that people liked it, and I've heard that it's, like, for example, it's kind of often thrown in the group of, like, Gravity Falls and Adventure Time, which, and I've seen Gravity Falls, I really like Gravity Falls, I haven't seen Adventure Time, but, it's thrown in there as a category of shows that people like that, are for kids,
Yeah.
but, like, adults like them or whatever, so. I just didn't care. Again, I know 2 episodes is not very much, and I think they're kind of short, so it's like, again, did I hate it? No. But I just, I did not get sucked in at all.
Okay.
So again, maybe that's just how it is. I should have waited longer. I don't know. That said, though, apparently, the ending was bad.
Oh.
Like,
Oh, really?
flat out bad. So it's kind of like a Games of Thrones situation where it's like, I was kind of curious to see it, but now that I know it ends like badly, now I'm not really curious to see it, right? So, I don't know. I probably
Oh
will
yeah,
not.
that also happened this year too.
Oh yeah, like,
Yeah, none of us have watched it, so
So
don't
we're
come at
not-
us.
no, it was
Yeah.
entertaining watching everyone lose their minds over it, though.
It was like on Twitter.
Especially with like the Starbucks cup and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Like each week, I would see like on Monday morning, I would see like my Twitter timeline, and half of the people were completely like enraged at what happened at Game of Thrones, like talking about all the spoilers, and then another half were like, it wasn't great, but it was okay. And then when it ended, I got the viewing pleasure of so many like video essays trying to fix the ending
Oh,
or
yeah.
trying to rewrite the
Yeah.
ending, and those are pretty interesting to watch from just a construction kind of point of view, like writing and stuff, because they fucked it up so badly.
I think the funniest thing about this is that like one of the main kind of behind the scenes ideas is that for about a year now, the two writers of the Game of Thrones stuff, they had actually been commissioned by Disney to write the next Star Wars trilogy.
Oh.
But after and so one of the things was that like they were like, oh, we're gonna go write Star Wars. Let's hurry. Let's quick finish up Game of Thrones so we can go work on Star Wars, right? And so they rushed Game of Thrones and fucked it up. But then after Game of Thrones ended and everyone hated it, Disney was like, we're not gonna have you write the new Star Wars trilogy after all. So
they screwed themselves.
yeah, like, I don't know if it exactly played out that way in reality, but it feels like it did. It's just like, oh boy. So
It's kind of like don't count your chickens before they hatch.
yeah. So okay, so the other show that I tried to watch, okay, this is a show that is one that a lot of people really love. It's one of those like famous shows that like everyone says this is a classic. It's one of the best shows of all time, and I thought I would like it by the setup. Like I'm like the setup looks good, interesting, and how things are gonna work. And I was actually kind of gearing up to maybe even like kind of make a thing out of me watching this show because I'd never seen the show before, and like maybe I should record some reactions or something. But ultimately, I was like, I have too much shit to do, and I'm ultimately not gonna go with it, whatever. So I watched the first episode, but I still had planned to like watch the whole season, the whole show, and I was like, okay. I watched the first episode, and my immediate thought for the first episode was, well, I'm gonna at least get through the first season. And then I watched the second episode, and I was like, I'm gonna try to get through the first season. Watch the third episode, and I'm like, I'll try one more. Watch the fourth episode. Stop.
Steven Universe?
No, I'm not even touching Steven Universe. Fuck no.
What was it?
Futurama.
Oh.
I could not get into Futurama. And I really wanted to like this show. I thought I would like the show. People have said it's really great. I'll be honest, and I just didn't. To me, it felt like... Okay, this is weird because the closest thing that I think it reminds me of is Rick and Morty, but Rick and Morty came later. So to me, it was like Rick and Morty feels like someone saw Futurama and was like, "Hey, this is we can make this better," and then made Rick and Morty. Okay, people are probably gonna hate me for saying that because again, Futurama's loved so much. But I'll be honest, I didn't think it was very funny. I really didn't. I'm like, okay, I see how the characters work. Fry is just kind of an idiot. Bender's kind of just like an asshole, like, and the one-eyed lady, I forgot her name. She's kind of like, I'm the person who's trying to keep everyone together, and then here's the old professor dude who's just a stereotypical old guy. And it's like, I'm not getting anything out of this. Is it bad? No, but again, I had no desire to continue after 4 episodes. And again, maybe someone's like, oh, that just, it gets better. And look, maybe. Again, one of my favorite shows, Star Wars The Clone Wars, I will fully admit the first season is just kind of okay, right? So I understand that, but I had at least a desire to watch more of that show. I had no desire to watch any more of this. So it sucks that I couldn't get into it, but I couldn't. So sorry. That's all I can say about that. Okay. Now there's several shows where I just watched like a season of the show, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I finally watched the 5th season of the 2012 Ninja Turtles show. I never watched it for some reason, and it wasn't because for any particular reason, I just never did.
Mm.
It's not as good as the first 4. Granted, I still think the 2003 series is the best of the series, and the 2012 series, I actually came into the 2012 series like when it first came out, thinking that like this is going to be bad, and I was surprised that it wasn't bad. It was actually pretty good. But the ending of season 4 was very much like a definitive ending, and then season 5 was like, we have a bunch of random stories we're kind of gonna throw together, and so we got like, you know, several like 3 or 4 episode arcs that are all kind of disconnected from each other, and the arcs themselves are like okay, but you just feel like, why am I watching this, right? So it's not great. And a lot of the stuff they do is stuff that, like, again, like the 2003 series like kind of did the same kind of thing, but they did it better. So yeah, again, is it terrible? No. But but basically, I'm like, I didn't feel like, oh man, I really wish I saw the season 5, like, you know, I didn't wait till now to see it. I'm like, nah, not really. So there's that. I saw season 1 of Daredevil, and there's no particular reason that I still have not like watched the other Marvel Netflix shows or even the other seasons of Daredevil. I just haven't gotten around to it. But season 1 of Daredevil it's really damn good. It is. It's very good. It's, you know, definitely very different compared to the movies.
No Evanescence?
No, not just that, but I also mean like the actual MCU movies. It's very different from those. And I was kind of surprised how different it was. And I've heard people kind of say that like the story is kind of stretched a bit too thin. I don't think so, actually. I was always engaged in the story, and I felt it was paced really well. And I think the overall character arc of what's going on is well done. The standout, though, is the villain. The villain is very, very good.
Is it Kingpin or no?
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay.
But it's very, very different than, again, it's the 2003 movie. Again, it's good for one. But like, you know, like we said for like the MCU, we kind of put like our favorite villains were like Vulture and like, I don't know, say like Thanos and, you know, those kind of
Loki.
Right? Yeah, Loki, and maybe, I don't know, some people would put like maybe Mysterio from Far From Home as like the best villains, right? I put Kingpin right up there, but for very different reasons. It's very, again, I don't really want to tell you because part of this, I think, at least for me, because I didn't really know going into the show what it is, or like at least what the tone was going for, and part of it is just the shock and surprise of, oh shit, they did that. Like, it's, yeah, they get away with quite a lot, so I'm curious to see more. Again, I just haven't gotten around to it. And as well as some of the other Marvel shows. Again, I've heard like Jessica Jones is also a very good show. So I'd be curious to see more. But I've only seen season 1 of Daredevil for now, but I highly recommend it. Okay, those are older stuff. What came out this year? Season 5 of Black Mirror came out this year. Now, season 5 of Black Mirror is basically how the general opinion of this seems to be. Everyone will be like, "Oh, this is the moment that Black Mirror sucks now." Is this the worst season of Black Mirror? Yes. That doesn't make it bad. It's not bad. It's just not as good as the previous ones. This season's only 3 episodes. Seasons 1 and 2 were also only 3 episodes, but then 3 and 4 were 6.
Okay.
Granted, they did do the Bandersnatch thing at the very end of 2018, so it probably is why there's only 3 episodes for this. But, so there's 3 episodes. There was Striking Vipers, Smithereens, and Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2. So, Striking Viper, okay. I don't think any of these episodes are disliked. There's only one Black Mirror episode I actually don't like, and it's actually from season 4. It's Crocodile. And even then, I don't hate it. I just think, like, the overall conflict doesn't really make any sense. But, so I'll briefly kind of go through, because the thing with Black Mirror is that every episode is, like, completely different, right? There's no overall plot or anything. So, the first episode, Striking Vipers, the setup is basically, like, these 2 guys were friends growing up. They, play video games together. And then now they're kind of, it's been a few years, they're married men or whatever in their own kind of adult lives. But this VR game came out, but it's more than just VR. It's this actual think about like the sci-fi version of VR where it's like you can touch the thing and it seems like you're in the game for real, right? It's like that kind of thing. And it's like a fighting game, right? Think like Street Fighter basically. And so they play as like the characters that they used to play as, where one of them's like this like Asian guy, and the other one is actually it's played by the same person who is a Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy actually. And what happens is they start having like a romantic relationship in the game.
Oh.
But they're, two guys in the real world who like one of them's married and has a kid, and it's like it gets into the sense of kind of like I find it actually really interesting because it's kind of like what is actual like constitutes like a real relationship, and like how do you handle that stuff? And I think it does handle, and it's like it kind of sounds like a dumb question, but it's like, but it does kind of get to like what is gay. You know what I mean? It kind of gets into that though in a way where it's like it's kind of interesting because it's like, do you like it just because the relationship in the game is a heterosexual relationship, but it's like actually two. You know what I mean? It's kind of, so it's like, it sounds dumb when I kind of phrase like that, but I think they actually handle it pretty well. So I think that is the episode I like the most, actually. So I actually kind of like it. Smithereens is interesting. It's weird because it's a very small story, and it's kind of plays out like almost like kind of like a mystery story of like what's going on. Like, here's this weird scenario. What is leading up to this? Why is this character doing this thing? The main character's performance is really good, and it was decently engaging. It's just mainly the main thing is that it just the ultimate payoff of everything is just not super interesting. So again, is it bad? No. And there's some stuff in it that is very good, but overall it's just kind of okay. Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2. So this episode has Miley Cyrus in it. And Miley Cyrus is a pop singer who is being controlled by her agent to produce pop songs when she actually wants to do something else instead.
Is this meta or something?
And I'm like, this is kind of stupid. So the premise is just kind of so like cliche, and they don't really like subvert the cliche either. It's just like, yeah, that actually is the story, and it's like, oh, kind of lame. But within that story, it's actually like not handled terribly. Okay, there's some stuff that's dumb, but like there's one thing, I kind of don't want to go into it because again, I kind of might want to show it to you at some point. There's one thing in it where like basically there's they have these like little what the fuck are those called? You remember those like dogs, like those little like robot dog toys?
Oh wait,
yeah. The ones that like changed like
expressions
like
on the face and the eyes. Yeah. So
yeah.
It's like there's like basically little like robot like action figure thingies of like this pop singer who are kind of like that.
Oh.
And what they do with that is actually kind of entertaining. I'm not gonna say it's like clever or like super interesting, but it's entertaining. So again, I don't hate any of these episodes. I don't even dislike any of the episodes, but at the same time, ultimately, they're just kind of fine. So, and Black Mirror has the overall quality of Black Mirror is like very, very good. So when you have just a season that's fine, it does feel like,
right, that makes sense.
So again, ultimately, I still like the episodes, and of course I want to see more, but okay. Then there's season 4 of Rick and Morty. Now, we've only have half of the season. Actually, the 5th. So there's supposed to be 10 episodes in the season. 5 of them have come out within the last like month or so, and we're not going to get the other 5 until sometime in 2020. We don't know when. And just like with Black Mirror season 5, this is the one where everyone's like, "Oh, this is it. Rick and Morty is bad now," and I agree a little bit more with this than I did with Black Mirror.
Okay.
I still don't think it's bad, like full on bad, but let me put it this way. I don't even remember the first episode of this season at all. I have no idea what happened in the story. I don't remember.
Wow.
The second episode was okay. It was one of the things that Rick and Morty kind of does is kind of absurdist kind of humor, sci-fi humor. And it's like, its story involves around a toilet, which is like, okay. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's a dumb scenario, but they take it kind of like so far that it is like kind of funny. And there is actually, like, they kind of go for, like, there's an actual kind of serious, sympathetic moment in what's going on, and, like, it's handled okay. They have handled this stuff better before. So, like, that episode's alright. The third episode is, like, it's like a riff on, like, heist movies, which is, like, okay. It's, like, kind of random. It's like, what was the, it's not a terrible episode? No, it's just kind of random. Episode 4 is, like, not good. It's like dragons that, like, the whole thing is that they have, like, their souls are bound to, like, they're like a human or whatever, so they can, but, like, the whole thing is that soul binding is, like, it's like it's it is like some sort of mystical process, but it, like, feels like sex or something. So, like, the whole thing is like, oh, this dragon wants to, like, soul bind with a bunch of humans. It's like a slut dragon, and it's like, that's just stupid. That's just stupid. Like, what are we doing? This is dumb. So, yeah, that was just dumb. That was just, again, that was not a good episode. That was, like, it's probably... Is that the worst episode that they've had in the series? I don't like the very first episode. But is that... I don't know. It's definitely, like, it might be the worst episode that they've done. So at this point, I'm like, oh, man, it's really not going so well. The fifth episode, though, the last one that they've shown for this, was quite good, though.
Okay.
I would say it's not, like, the best or anything. But it's definitely in the top half, maybe the top third that they've done. So that picks up somewhat. So I'm not, like, writing the whole show off, but it is kind of weird where it's like, this is what we've got so far. And it's especially since, like, for example, the Black Mirror season 5. By watching those season 5 episodes, do I therefore think of the show less? Do I think less of the show overall after watching the season 5 episodes that weren't as good? No. But for Rick and Morty, by seeing the season 4, I'm like, do I think less of the show overall by seeing season 4? Kinda, yeah, actually. So, yeah, we'll see. Maybe it picks itself up and the second half of season 4 is fantastic. Maybe, but it just felt kind of weird. So, yeah. Okay. Now we have full shows that I watched all of. Or at least all of that have come out. Okay. Not all of these came out this year, or some of them, like, one season came out this year. So the first one, and I actually started watching this much earlier in the year, is I watched Young Justice. Now, I had watched the DCA animated shows, Batman animated series, Superman, Justice League. I watched those, like, a couple years ago. Young Justice, Young Justice was always kind of on my radar after that, but I just didn't get around to it. And part of it was that, like, there was these, back when I was first looking into it in, like, 2018, there were these rumblings, like, is there going to be a third season? Is there going to be a third season? And then there was, but what they did is that they did half of the season 3 in, like, January of this year, and the second half in, like, July.
So, okay.
So I didn't really want to fully, I was kind of not sure how I wanted to approach the show in that sense. What I ultimately decided on was I watched the first 2 seasons, I think in, like, March, and then I watched season 3 right before, and the second half of season 3 was released, and then I watched while that was released that way. So that's what I did. So this show is excellent in terms of pulling a plot together.
Okay.
There are so many times where it's like, here's kind of some random characters kind of doing their own thing. That's kind of odd. But it brings them in and makes them relevant in ways that's like, oh, that actually feels natural, but it's, like, totally legitimate. So it brings that in, and the characters are, like, legitimately, like, really, they're good characters. They're relatable, they have their own things they work with, and there's also a good amount of them, which, so you might think, like, that's kind of surprising and that they managed to balance it, but they do. And the main way they do is that season 1 focuses mostly on kind of the 6 of them? I think it's 6 of them. The first kind of group of 6 of them coming together, and that's Robin, Superboy, Miss Martian, Aqualad, I'm forgetting. Oh, Kid Flash and Artemis. And it's the 6 of them kind of coming together and doing stuff and figuring out this kind of plot of what's going on. And again, there are some side characters and other stuff going on, and the story comes together and it works really well. Season 2, it has most of those characters, though some of them are kind of doing their own thing and are kind of more side characters now. And they also bring in some new characters. They bring in, like, Blue Beetle, Beast Boy. I don't remember if I think he actually was introduced in season 1, but anyway, he's more important now. And, like, Static actually is in this, and, like, there's some of this other dude, I forgot his name. Anyway, so it slowly kind of brings in some more people, but it shifts the focus from characters a little bit, but you still have a lot of familiarity in addition to the new characters. And I will say, season 2, in terms of like a season telling an overall story, it's one of the best like TV show kind of seasonal plots I've seen, honestly.
Ooh.
There's only like one thing that bothers me, and it's something that it bothers me just kind of in the moment, but honestly looking back on it, and then therefore what it led to later, I appreciate it. So that's done really well. Season 3 is a little bit of a step down, but this is like a step down from like one of the best. Okay, so it's still very good. I do feel like season 3 they sort of introduced a bit more than they should have, because then by the end of season 3 they sort of pull back into like what they were at the start, and it's kind of like, well, wait, what about all that other stuff you were doing? And it's very clear that other stuff will come back later in like a season 4, but it does feel a little bit of a weird shift. And also part of it is that like season 3 focuses a lot more on several of brand new characters. So it's a little bit of a shift there. But there is stuff that's still done. For example, what they do with Artemis in season 3 is like really good in an episode later in the series, which if people have seen it, they know what I'm talking about, because it's a very good moment. Actually, Artemis is like is up there with one of my favorite characters now. She's just she kind of has like she has a fun like attitude of stuff in the beginning, but again you learn more depths, you learn kind of her family story and stuff like that. And again, the stuff that they did with her in season 3 is like really emotionally powerful, and like actually like kind of like it's legitimately important for someone to kind of like an audience person to kind of see that, even for like not just like kids but even adults to see that. So I really like that in that sense. So that was I really like Young Justice. I can't really think any small problem I have with it is very small, or like this specific thing in this one episode is a little weird, right? So no like big overall problems at all, and I highly recommend it to almost anyone, honestly. So then one of the things I started watching some Netflix shows, and one that I'd heard for a while is this show called Troll Hunters. Now,
I heard of that one too.
It's a DreamWorks show that's CGI animated, and it was actually, I don't know if it was originally pitched like this, but it's actually now it's sort of that like this is the first of 3 shows in this sort of like overall kind of universe, sort of, right? And I've heard again a lot of praise that people like, oh, Troll Hunters is sort of like this gold standard for Netflix, children animated shows, right? To me, it's good, but it's standard good.
Okay.
It's kind of a standard like kids Western animated kids show, where here's your sort of here's your teenage boy hero who's kind of the blank slate, and he's got kind of the goofy sidekick, and he's got a love interest, and here's the old mentor character, and here's this terrible evil that's sealed away. That is, you know what I mean? So it's there's a lot of cliches, but they're not done poorly, right? But at the same time, I'm like, this show isn't really doing anything new, right? It's not. And there are some things where it's like, again, like the ending of the show, it's three seasons, and the ending of the show, it does kind of feel like they're like, oh, look, we subverted your expectation, but in a way that's like, you didn't need to, right?
Yeah.
So there's a bit of that and some stuff. So again, I do ultimately think the show's pretty good, but I don't think it's like a masterpiece or like one of the best things that's out there, right? But the sequel show, again, the second show in this sort of shared universe or whatever, is 3 Below. And 3 Below is, instead of like, again, literally, the whole thing with Troll Hunter is literally this kid who like he gets this amulet of power, and he, gains like this armor and this sword to literally hunt trolls. Like, that's the thing, right? So it's kind of fantasy themed, right? 3 Below is sci-fi themed, and the main characters are aliens who have crash landed on Earth and are trying to blend in. Another stereotypical kind of story, right? But the first season of 3 Below is kind of bonkers, and I really like that. Because honestly, the biggest problem with Troll Hunters is just the main characters are just kind of boring. Like, if I show you like an image of like the main character of Troll Hunters, you probably think like, that's the main character, it just looks like a dude. Like, it's just not very interesting, right? But 3 Below, it's like, they go kind of nuts. In terms of, like, again, the whole thing, like, oh, aliens crash land on Earth, they're trying to, how do humans work, right? But it's like, they go so far with it that it's funny. Where it's, like, so ridiculous, and it's just, here's this, and the main it's so there's a prince and princess, the siblings of this like alien kingdom, whatever, and also their like kind of like bodyguard person, and the three of them crash on Earth, and the whole thing, and like first of all, the bodyguard is like his literal whole thing is that he's like, you know, I have to prove my strength to literally everything, and it's like it sounds dumb, but because they go so far with it, it's funny. So, and then I actually really like I like the girl the most, actually, Aja. I like her character, where it's kind of like, you know, I'm more than a princess or whatever, but like they do it in a way that's actually like kind of good and not like just generic. So, yeah, so especially with season 1, I like it a lot. Season 2, it gets a little bit more standard again. It kind of tiles back the goofiness a bit, and again, there are some good moments. There's a kind of good kind of climactic moment near the end with stuff. But it's just it does feel it's a little bit, again, it's kind of samey, kind of like with Troll Hunters again. So yeah. Now the third show that was supposed to be kind of the finale of this was all we know is it's going to be called Wizards. Okay.
Okay.
It was supposed to come out actually at the end of this year, but we haven't seen anything about it. I don't think it's canceled. I just think it's probably, you know, going to be a 2020 thing or something. I'll be curious to see it. But I'm not like, oh, I gotta see this show, because again, I don't think any of these so far have been like great, although I'd say season 1 of 3 Below is pretty damn good. But yeah. So, okay. Then I saw Infinity Train, which was it was a brief mini-series on Cartoon Network, I think like August or September-ish. And it's 10 episodes, each episode's 10 minutes. So it's very short, and this is something where like there was like a pilot kind of pitch like that was on YouTube for like a few years ago, and there was a lot of people who were like, please make this a show, please make this a show, and they finally did against the miniseries. But I think that actually works in its favor. I really like it. It's kind of one of those where like at first it seems like, oh, this is kind of a look at this kind of weird scenario, aren't we kind of like out there and bizarre, right? And that's kind of the gimmick, but like there is a point to it, and they do things with it that actually like has impact and importance to it. So I do think it actually handles it quite well, and they've said that they are going to make like a second one basically, but it's going to be the premise is basically, here's this character, she ends up on literally an infinite train, what does she do? Right.
Okay.
And it's like because when they said they're gonna make a sequel, at first I was like, well, but you completed this story that you had. Like, how are you gonna make a sequel? But what they're gonna do is they're gonna stick a different character on the train, and I'm like, oh, okay, that works. If you have a completely different character kind of going through stuff that happens, you can at least start from a different angle, and that works fine, right? So if that's their angle going for it, I'm fine with that, and so I think that could work. And yeah, so I highly recommend Infinity Train. Okay, another Netflix show. This is one where I feel like if I watched it as a kid, I would not like it.
Oh.
Because I think I would find it boring. But I watched Hilda. And Hilda is my definition of... I have 2 words for Hilda. The first is wholesome.
Okay.
And the second is autumn.
Autumn.
Because when you think of autumn, most like kind of shows or movies that have like an autumn aesthetic, it's not so much an autumn aesthetic, it's more of a Halloween aesthetic, right?
Right.
This is not a Halloween aesthetic. It is an autumn aesthetic, and it works really well. Like, I want to show you some like images from this show, because the color, like the character design and stuff is like kind of simplistic, but the colors are just so like orange, and like it's just really beautiful to like kind of see what the show is, even if like the specific like image quality is maybe not like, you know, super detailed or whatever. And it's just really nice like to watch. It's just, you know, you just see here's this girl who's kind of, she's kind of Luna Lovegoody almost.
Okay.
But like she's a little bit more grounded, but she's kind of similar, and like I'm interested in everything around me, kind of that kind of person, right? And it's like that character could get annoying, but she's not. And it's just like you see this girl and like with her mom and some friends that they make, and they just do things, and it's like, this is nice.
Oh.
I like this. And so again, it's like, and there apparently season 2 I think is supposed to be like early 2020. So definitely curious with that. My only issue is that the first 2 episodes are too good.
Too good.
They're too good, because then the rest of the season is just like not quite as good as those first 2 episodes, so you kind of feel like you kind of miss out.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So, but again, this is complaining that they're not like they're great and not amazing, right? So it's just like but yeah, especially if you want something that's just kind of just nice and you want to watch something nice, go watch Hilda. It's very nice. On the other hand,
Oh boy.
there's a show called Final Space. Final Space to me is less crazy Rick and Morty. It's still, kind of sci-fi themed, and it's kind of off-brand, kind of kooky humor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not quite as abstract and weird. They actually are trying to tell like an overall plot and story and have things happen with characters. Now, the first season, the main character is annoying, and and it's a shame because I like most of the other characters, and the scenario was interesting. And when the show did go for like kind of emotional moments, I think it overall worked pretty well. It's just the main character was like really obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2, he's less obnoxious, considerably less obnoxious. I'm not gonna say he's like great in season 2, but he's nowhere like season 1. It was like I could see someone watching season 1 and being like, this character just completely ruins the show for me. Whereas in season 2, that wouldn't be the case. And then season 2 also expands on some other stuff. There's some characters that are introduced that I actually like quite a bit. Actually, the main character's mom is introduced, and you might think like, how is that? Very interesting. But actually, she's actually probably the most interesting character. There's another character who actually was in season 1, but was like very not important, and he's way more important in season 2, and he's kind of the annoying one now. But so and like there is this other character that's this robot named Kevin, who's just the joke is that everyone hates him, but like that's literally the whole joke, and it's like that got old after like episode 1. So it's like, you know what I mean? So, and even when it's like again, I can't say I love the show. I am kind of curious if they continue past season 2, kind of where this would go, because again, season 2, especially since season 2 was better than season 1, if they continue improving or whatever, I think it could be interesting. So I'll look out for this, see how this goes, but I'm not like, oh, I love Final Space or anything. But it's fine, really, especially now, it's fine. I watched the Big Hero 6 show.
Ooh, how was it?
I kind of feel like this how I feel about Troll Hunter, where it's standard, it's good standard, but it's kind of standard. It does its thing as here's these kind of superhero characters in this world, and they do shit, right? I don't think any of the characters are particularly great. I did think Fred was like more annoying here than he was in the movie, but I think he does get better. So okay. And I do how they kind of expand on the world and the characters that they do add to it. I think they do fit and they do kind of work with that, like the other villains and stuff like that. So it's not a bad show by any means. And if you're interested in the movie and you like the movie, I think you'll like the show. But it doesn't like do anything brand new. Like, oh my god, you have to see this show. Not really. But it's fine. We're kind of like in the middle of season 2 now. And near-ish the end, but we're not like at like the actual end point or anything. But if you're interested, it's worth checking out. And okay, I don't know why I decided to watch this show, but I watched DC Superhero Girls, and the way I can describe this is My Little Pony, but not terrible. Because here's the thing, My Little Pony was like, here's the show for girls, but like it's supposed to also appeal to more people, right? I had someone who liked that show show me some clips from My Little Pony, and I'm like, this is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my goddamn life. So I can say I was legitimately open to watching My Little Pony before I actually like looked into it. I looked into it, and I'm like, no, this is like I hate like every single person I'm looking at. Like, fuck no, every character is obnoxious. Hell no, I'm not watching this show. DC Superhero Girls is kind of saying like, okay, let's kind of take a similar premise, or here's all these female characters, and they kind of have kind of a little bit quirky personalities, and they just kind of do random shit together. But actually, like, not have them be terribly annoying. And I'm like, okay, this works. It works for what it is, right? So, obviously, if you don't really care for that, you don't really care for that. And then, like, again, the personalities are kind of over the top, right? So there are some moments that I do find a bit annoying, but as a show overall, no. Again, is it fantastic? No. But it kind of accomplishes what it needs to, and so, okay, fine. Okay. All right. I got just a couple. We're getting toward the end here. So there's 2 Netflix shows that I watched this year that have jumped up my ratings significantly and are now up there. I don't know if I'm going to say they're at my absolute top level, but they're close.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is a show called The Dragon Prince. Now, the best way to describe The Dragon Prince is Western Avatar: The Last Airbender.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
And the whole thing is, like, for example, instead of the 4 elements, there's the 6 primal magics. Okay? So you have land, sea, sky, sun, moon, and stars. Okay?
Okay.
And there's, like, humans and elves and dragons and, you know, all this kind of stuff going on. In fact, I believe the main creator of the show was actually one of the writers of Last Airbender. So
Okay.
it's very similar. And, for example, the main characters, Callum, Ezrin, and Rayla are, like, they do, on a very cursory glance, kind of seem like Aang, Katara, and Sokka. They're not, but you can kind of draw some connections and stuff like that, right?
Mm.
Now, what's kind of weird is that the show has been... The seasons of the show have been only 9 episodes.
Mm.
And so there's been 3 seasons, so we've had 27 episodes. Now, each season of The Last Airbender was like 26 episodes, right? So even though we've had 3 seasons of Dragon Prince, it basically feels like 1 season of, like, the show, honestly. Because really, the end of season 1 and the end of season 2 of Dragon Prince, like, are not really, like, climactic moments. Like, they kind of are, but not really. So it does feel kind of... If you were, like, to just watch, like, season 1, you'd be like, that's it? Like, well, you know what I mean? But you have to kind of watch, like, 1 to 3 as one thing to kind of get, like, a full experience. But what's really good here is that... Well, so, okay, for the main kind of conflict is that you have the elves, which can use all these 6 types of magic, right? And the humans who can't. And so there's this sort of backstory about how, like, you know, humans are kind of seen as, like, kind of weak and shitty and can't really do anything. But then humans discovered dark magic, which is they can do by basically, like, draining the life force from, like, other living things. So, for example, like, you'll have a dude who's, like, trying to do dark magic, and he'll just, like, have, like, some, like, bugs in his hands, and he just, like, kills them and then uses them to, like, do a thing, right? And so the elves are like, bruh, like, don't kill things, no, right? And, like, basically, like, banish them and kick them all out. But at the same time, like, they kind of, like, treated humans like shit. So you have this conflict where it's, like, both sides are wrong. And they actually, like, do that sort of political, like, dance about it in a way that actually is done well and interesting. So that's handled well. The character interactions are handled quite well. There's the 3 main ones I mentioned. There's also... So I guess the villain of the show so far is this guy Viren, who was like the advisor to, like, one of the human kings, but he's sort of like, you know, oh, I'm plotting to, like, take control or whatever. But it's more than that, because it's kind of like Thanos-y in a way, where it's like he legitimately thinks he's doing the right thing, even though though it's different from Thanos because it is for selfish reasons. But he does, like, have the sense, like, yeah, I'm doing this, you know, to help people and actually, you know, make the humans, you know, win against the elves, right? So he doesn't just seem like some idiot, like, bad guy. I'm bad because I want power, right? It's not quite like that. But he has 2 kids, Soren and Claudia, and Soren is kind of like the dumbass, but he's like, he is kind of, like, endearing because he knows he's not very smart. So, like, it actually works kind of well, and he's like, I know I'm not very smart, but, like, I want to do things and want to help and want to, you know, put myself out there, and it's like, you know, he like, you could have made this character very annoying, and he's not. So that works well. And then Claudia is interesting because she actually uses dark magic as well, and, like, Callum, so Callum and Ezrin are 2 kids of the actual king. Ezrin is an actual child of the king, where Callum is, like, he was the child of his mom before his mom married the king.
I see.
So Callum actually has a crush on Claudia, but he also, like, kind of doesn't like the dark magic aspect of it, but, like, she does it, right? So it's like there's kind of, and, like, again, it sounds like kind of lame, but, like, it's handled well. The character interactions are done actually well and believably. And so, and the animation is interesting because it's like 2D backgrounds, and the characters are stylized kind of like 2D characters, but they are 3D models. So it's an interesting kind of mix of animation. And I will say season 1 especially, the frame rate of the characters is kind of weirdly low. It does look a little weird. But it gets better for seasons 2 and 3, and I don't think it's that bad either way. But yeah, just how it's set up, everything, the character interactions in this sort of world that actually feels like kind of legitimate. I really like it, and there is... Okay, I know I don't want to kind of give like a lot of hyperbole to this, because the show is still very new, right?
Right, yeah.
It's 3 seasons in, and again, 27 episodes in, and about 4 episodes before the end of season 3, a relationship formally begins. It's one that was kind of teased beforehand, and it was like kind of cliched in terms of how they got together and like some stuff, and it's not like, it's kind of expected with the show, but once they're together, I'm like, is this my favorite couple of all time? Like, oh my god, I love these two. It's so, because they're so adorable together, but and then like when there's an issue, they actually like work together to figure out the issue together, and not like just fight about dumb shit all the time. And I'm like, oh my god, like it's happening. We have like a good couple. Oh my god. So again, it's very new, right? So who knows how this is going to continue going forward. I really hope they don't like shove in some bullshit drama, but it's handled really well. And I'm just like, oh my god, again, this has potential to be like, if this continues, to be like one of my favorite like couples, like period. There is one shitty thing with this though. The creator guy who mentions the writer on Last Airbender.
Yeah.
There has been accusations leveled against him by staff members of his show that he's like kind of like misogynistic and like kind of an ass.
Oh no.
Now, it's not, I'm not saying this to defend him in any way, but it's not like as bad as like he like assaulted someone or anything like that. It's not to that degree, okay? But it's, the main thing is that like he just, it seems like he like is just kind of, any like female employees kind of like, hey, we can do this, or hey, here's an idea, and he just kind of always shuts them down and not really listening to what they're saying. And there's one thing which is just weird to me, where apparently like a fan, I believe a female fan, basically Twitter messaged him and was like, hey, is this character bi? And he said yes, but then later it was revealed that they weren't bi. And it's like, yeah, it's like, what? And so it's like just weird shit like that, where it's like, why would you even do that, right? It's just weird. Yeah. So again, it's like the guy is like kind of off in something. Now, granted, it does not affect the show. Like, I think, again, like the female characters in the show, I think are handled really well. Like I mentioned, I actually didn't really talk about the character Rayla, but I really like the character Rayla. She works really well, and again, I like her a lot. She actually kind of reminds me of Artemis I mentioned earlier. But so that doesn't affect her. And specifically the people who actually kind of came out with these accusations, they said, we don't want you to therefore not watch the show. Okay? So they still support the show and they want the show to continue. They just don't really like this guy. But the thing is, again, this is like, he is the guy who kind of created the show. It's like, if you were to kick him out, there would be no show.
Right.
So it's like, and I kind of realized that, like, if I did not really like this show, I probably would just be like, yeah, kick him out, fuck him, right? But, like, I really want the show to continue. So I kind of like, I don't know where to feel about this.
Death of the author.
Yeah, so I'm just like, oh man. So, and there is kind of like rumblings about like Netflix, you know, are they actually going to renew them for season 4? We don't know. And I'm just like, like I want more of the show. And I know it's like, and the thing is like, even if this person, like, this kind of behavior doesn't go away, it's just, they learn how to hide it. Right? Yeah. So, yeah, there's no good solution here. I don't really know what it is. My selfish brain is like, me want more show, but it's like, so.
At what cost, kind of?
Yeah, so I really don't know how to feel about that. But again, if you're worried about it, like, feeling like, you know, because the people making accusations, they specifically said, look, even though he's the creator, he's not, this show was not made purely by him. There were a lot of other people who helped make this show, and they put in a lot of work into this, and we want to support that work, right? Mm-hmm. So, I basically, by watching this show, I don't feel like I'm, like, I don't feel like I'm only rewarding shitty behavior, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But I could see how someone does feel that way, so again, it's kind of, it's just, yeah, it's just shitty to deal with, and I don't, you know, that sucks. So somehow I hope they can figure something out that works and deals with this somehow, but I don't know. I don't know. Okay. So there's another Netflix show. This is one where, again, I don't know why I decided to watch this.
Okay.
It was one that I'd heard of, and I was like, I'd heard it was good, but, you know, I mean, a lot of people say stuff is good that I don't care about. And I was like, oh, what the hell? I'm gonna watch it. Season 1, I thought, pretty good. I like this one character a lot. Curious to see what they do. Overall, I mean, it's. I can tell this show was not originally made for me in mind. There are some dumb things within it, but, you know, pretty good. And hey, the end though, there's an interesting kind of thing. Oh, what's going to happen going after that? So I'm like, okay, I'll watch season 2. Watch season 2, kind of felt the same way. If anything, maybe a little bit less. There was one episode that felt like a complete waste of time. So I'm like, okay, again, that character I really like, still really like them. There's interesting stuff with that, and kind of curious to see how they expand from there, because again, near the end of season 2, there's sort of a shift in what's going on, and it's like, okay, I'm curious to see how this goes. So I'm like, okay, I'll watch season 3. Season 3 is excellent. It was excellent. I'm like, wow, they just nailed this completely. Everything's going great. And then season 4, they was just basically just more season 3 being like really, really good. So I'm like, holy shit, this is like amazing right now. And so the show I'm talking about, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I really like She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Now, Mai has an irrational hatred of this show.
It has a lot to do with trauma, depression, and irresponsibility.
Involving people that she knows that like the show. Now, I'm not going to say that it's not understandable, but you have to admit it's irrational. In terms of against the show itself. So, that said, so I guess ignoring Mai's special circumstances, I highly recommend this show. And the thing is, again, the first 2 seasons are not bad. They're good, but they're, again, kind of standard good. It's definitely clear, like, this show was originally made for, like, a younger female audience. You know, you have these 3 main characters who they're the best friend squad, kind of shit like that, right? So it's kind of some stuff like that. It's not that bad, but it's there, and it's like, okay, whatever, right? But again, then it's a little bit there in season 2. There's that one episode that's irrelevant. But then season 3 and 4 are, like, legitimately really good. And it seems like season 5 is probably going to be the last one. I think that's how they're framing it up. They haven't confirmed that, but it looks like that's what they're going to go for. So, and if they continue the trend, again, damn, this... And if anything, it makes the first 2 seasons being kind of standard actually, like, work in their favor, because it's like, you thought this was kind of a normal show. Oh, no, it's not, right? Because they go for things. And there's 2 things. The main thing I really appreciate is the character writing. Because, for example, how many times have you had, like, a show that does this, where you have 2 characters, they get in an argument, and there's kind of this fight, and they split up, like, I'm not going to work with you anymore, but then there's some threat, and they have to come together, and they come together, deal with threat, and, oh, I forgive you now, right? That's stupid common, right? There's an episode that's like that. But they don't really forgive each other afterwards. And they're like, yeah, we still, like, really disagree on this thing, and we're, like, kind of completely incompatible about it right now, so, like, we had to work together to deal with this, but, like, I still don't really like you. And that, like, continues for, like, several episodes. And it's like, yeah, that actually is what would happen, right? People do kind of not just immediately forgive people for shit, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's a character, like, I mentioned there's a character I really like. I don't really want to say anything about this character, because part of it is just to see what they do with her. And this character is Catra. I don't really know how to describe Catra at all, because I am so glad I came into the show knowing nothing about it. Because by far the most interesting about this is just, what does Catra do? What does she do from each episode? And it's really, really, really interesting, because at first the setup is, oh, she's sort of like the friendly rival that's on the wrong side of the fight, right? And it's like, okay, so it's like they're kind of combative to each other, and they're kind of getting in fights and arguments, but ultimately she's going to come over to her side and then whatever, right? That's how it's going to go, right? That's not what happens. And what they do with this character is incredibly interesting to me. And I'm hesitant saying this because, again, the show's not over yet, but if they kind of take this to its far conclusion at, like, the end of season 5, and they go all the way with this, like, is she my favorite character of all time? I don't know. Maybe. I actually legitimately have to think about that if they go all the way with this. So, I don't want to say anything because it needs to be, you need to experience it because it's just so interesting. So, unless you're a person with baggage like go watch this. Again, there is some dumb shit in the beginning, but it's not that bad, and the stuff that is good is really fucking good. Okay. Couple more.
How many more exactly?
3. No, 4.
3.
4 plus like a tiny little extra thing.
Okay.
So there's another Netflix show that was not animated, but it was actually made through puppets. It's the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance show.
Puppets?
It's all puppetry, and like I think there's some CGI stuff, but it's mostly puppets and sets. And on a technical level, visually, it's incredibly impressive. Like, it's very, very impressive that they managed to pull this off with, that kind of stuff.
Wait, when you say puppets, do you mean like the Muppets puppets?
I mean like Yoda puppet kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I was like, Muppets?
Yeah, and it's the thing is that this is sort of like a prequel show to like a movie, The Dark Crystal, that came out in like the 80s. And the movie was like okay, it kind of had some weird plot stuff in it or whatever, but like again, also on a technical level, also made with puppets, it was very impressive, right? So this kind of continues that, but actually, tries to kind of add more to the story and kind of flesh out with characters stuff that makes, is a bit more well-rounded. Ignoring the technical stuff, it's kind of like good standard, but the technical stuff is very impressive. There's some very impressive visuals and just kind of how things look. There's a very interesting design to the characters in the world that I like a lot. And the characters, again, I don't love them, but they're good. They work with what they need to, and the story's decently interesting and that kind of stuff. So it's if you maybe look up some screenshots and you're like, if the world interests you, I definitely recommend checking it out in that sense. Okay. Then we have 3 shows that are kind of ongoing right now. Two of which by the time this video goes up will have ended the season, but as of right now recording this, they have not. So first is The Mandalorian.
Oh, I watched the first episode for that.
So I have seen, as of recording this, I have seen the 7 of 8 episodes of The Mandalorian, because the 8th one is not out yet. Now, my favorite thing about this is, for Star Wars, it's very different. Okay? It's kind of similar to, sort of cowboyish, kind of, here's my lone rough hero kind of thing. Kind of, but it's a bit different. And the thing I like, besides that, though, what I like, is that the main character is just, he's so not stereotypically a main character. Because think about all, the Star Wars main characters, right? Think, Luke and Rey. It's and then you have Mando, and he's just, he's kind of, doesn't want to do things, but he, knows he has to, so he's just fuck it, right? That's his thing, and it's interesting to see that, and, how that works, and he's just I gotta do this, I don't really want to, but, god damn it, it's just, so it's just, I think that works well in his favor. And so episode 1 is really good, at kind of introducing what's going on, that's sort of the twist, which I'm sure everyone knows about, considering the memes are everywhere, but I'll still be quiet about it. That's handled really well. Episode 2 is a little bit of a side story, but it does kind of add to what's going on as well, so that works. And then episode 3 really sort of is oh, now I see where this is going in terms of an overall story, right? Now, my little problem with this, and because here's the thing, I've seen a lot of people say that, this show is amazing, it's phenomenal, it's, the best Star Wars thing of all time, and I'm it's not. It's good, but it's not like that. And the main thing is that for episodes 4, 5, and 6, they're just kind of side stories that don't really advance the plot. Episode 4 is probably the best of those because it does a little bit and does introduce a character who is one of those characters where it's okay, you're definitely going to be important later, and I do think you're interesting and I do like you, okay? Even though it's kind of a side thing. But episode 5 is it's kind of I mean, it's not bad, but why are we watching this? You know, it's just kind of like, here's some characters, they show up, they were never here before, and based on what happens in the episode, you're not going to see them again. So, what was the point? You know? Again, it's not bad. And then season episode 6 is kind of similar, though I think that one could be a situation where they could come back, maybe? But I don't know. Episode 7, though, which just released, again, I was recording this today, is, it does kind of bring the story back on track, and it does kind of get more of a focus into it. So my main thing is just that, like, episodes, like, especially 5 and 6 just felt kind of unfocused, and, like, I mean, it's not bad, but, like, why are we watching this? So, yeah, and I am curious to see how they wrap this up in episode 8, because I feel like how they're at right now, I'm like, how do you wrap this up in one episode? Like, I don't know, right? But, now, granted, they've said there's going to be a season 2, so, okay. So, I think it's a good show, and if they do a season 2, I'm, curious to see how this goes onward, and also curious to see, any future Star Wars shows, how they handle that, because this is done well. But I do think people who are saying this is, like, an amazing thing, and I think that's a little bit hyperbole, but anyway. Another show that's in a very similar position in terms of how it's airing is, actually, speaking of Game of Thrones, it's an HBO thing, it's His Dark Materials. Now...
Oh, that was a book originally, right?
It was a book series, yes.
Did we briefly talk about this in a discussion?
Yes, it was the Madoka discussion. The second one, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Now, I read the books, and so right now it's the first season of the show, and the first season is covering the first book, basically. And again, it's 8 episodes. I've seen 7 of the 8 because the 8th one is not out yet. And I think it works quite well. I think the only thing that I can kind of say is that the pacing is a little weird, but I think that's because of the book itself.
Yeah, I found that to be the thing that was so hard for me to get through the first, like, the only book that I read. I thought the pacing was really hard to get into. It was just, I felt like it was very dense for, like, a child's book. Maybe that was just me.
Yeah, and sort of like they have this, there's the Bolvangar stuff. I don't know if you remember what the names are. I'm not going to go any more detail than that.
I don't remember names.
The children in the building.
Oh, yeah. No.
Okay, so there's that incident, and then there's the Svalbard, the bear thing, right? And then there's the ending. And it's like, it's sort of how the book is portrayed. It almost seems like Bolvangar is like the climax, but then there's this bear thing, and then there's this ending that are, like, completely separate from those, right? So it's like, that feels a little weird, and the show does feel a little weird because of that, but, I do think it's better than what the fucking 2007 movie did, which just switched the order of shit around, which was stupid. And just not do the ending. Ugh. But, what they have done, though, is, because the second book starts with a completely different character. So the main character is completely different in the second book. And so what they've done is in the show, they've sort of incorporated that character's backstory into this first season of the show. Presumably kind of leading up to when he will kind of be much more of a focus in the second season. So I think that's done well. And they have made a few changes, a few additions, but they're kind of small, and I do think they add to things more, anything. I also really like the main character, Lyra, in the show, because she's not your stereotypical, like, kid hero, where it's like, I'm the plucky kid, and, like, oh, I'm fascinated by everything. She's not that, because she's kind of subdued, which is kind of nice, because I'm so used to, like, here's this 12-year-old kid who's all freaking out, right, all the time. And, like, she's kind of devious, and, like, even the show kind of makes fun of it, almost, where this dude's, like, where the character's kind of impressed by how much of, like, a, like, little demon she is sometimes, in terms of how she, like, gets her way with stuff. So I kind of like that. She's kind of not, like, a stereotypical child in that sense. But yeah, so I think it's an interesting show if you're curious about sort of like it's sort of an alternate reality kind of scenario. And not really, the thing is, I'm very curious to see how seasons 2 and 3 will go with the second and third books, because I don't really remember the second and third books in terms of their plots, but shit gets weird. So I am very curious to see how they handle that, because, oh boy. Okay, last full show.
Okay.
I've been talking for like an hour straight.
You need water, dude.
I've been drinking water. I decided to watch an anime. It was an anime that I'd heard people say that they liked, but I honestly knew nothing about it. And I like this, but I feel like I would have really liked it if there were a few changes.
Okay.
And the anime is My Hero Academia.
Oh, you watched My Hero Academia.
Yes, I am fully caught up with the current season 4 as of like a week ago. My main problem. So wait, Tara, have you seen it or?
No, but we have a friend who watches it.
Okay,
and...
yeah, Maya was telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
gave him a little bit of backstory of our knowledge.
So-
quote unquote.
My main problem is with the main character. Now, I don't hate him. I was very worried about him actually in the beginning, but because it seemed okay. So the whole thing is that like, you know, main character Izuku Midoriya, he doesn't have this quirk, which is, you know, a lot of people have this quirk, some sort of superpower they could use, right? He doesn't have one, but he tries to save, like, and the whole thing is that he's, like, super unconfident. He's like, I can't do anything. I'm super lame and pathetic. But then, oh my god, this guy's in trouble. I'm going to get this burst of confidence and try to go save him, right? And then they use that as sort of a jumping off point where the sort of Superman of the world, All Might, sort of sees him and is like, I can pass on my power to you. I'm going to be here, going to be my protege, successor, right? And so that's sort of the jumping off point for that. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I'm like, okay, you were annoying and whiny at the beginning, but like, that's the point. Now you're supposed to get more confident now. But then, an episode later, he's like, even though he has this power, he's like, I can't do anything, I'm really confident, I can do anything, but then, oh my god, I get this burst of courage and I do a thing. And I'm like, is this going to be the entire show? Where he just whines and complains he's useless until he randomly gets inspiration to do a thing, and then the cycle repeats. And I'm just like, oh my god, I'm going to hate this. That's not what happens. So thankfully, that's not what happens. It focuses more on, like, because the thing is that he has this really strong power, but he can't control it without, like, literally, like, breaking his body. At the start, anyway. And so it's more so like, okay, I have this power, what strategy am I going to use to actually use it, right? And it's more of a strategy thing. And I'm like, okay, that works. And you do see, like, it's like right as when it feels like it starts to get a little bit stale, then they shake it up a bit in terms of like, oh, now he can do this with his power. Or now he's kind of changed it and he kind of does this now. And it's like, okay, it's not the exact same thing every single time. You do see growth and progression with it. So that's good. But I still have a kind of a problem where I feel like by looking at everything through his eyes, you're missing a lot of stuff with the side characters that you could have done otherwise. Because I like the side characters, but a lot of them, the side characters are not important until they're important to the main character. And so, like, for example, the whole thing is that the main thing is you follow the class of students where, you know, main character is one of them, and there's 20 of them. You did not know what some of their powers were until, like, episode, like, 35.
Oh,
like,
wow.
That shouldn't be a thing. You should know what all their powers are before that, right? And again, granted, there's 20 of them, so can you give all of them, like, equal focus? No, you can't, right? And there'd be some who kind of be left to the side. But I feel like there needs to be a bit of a better balance than what there is. Because at this point, I'm like, how many characters do I feel like I actually know? Like, a third of the class at most? Probably more like a quarter? There should be more than that. So, there's that. There's a few things with the story that I feel are, like, a little weird in terms of, like, kind of why people react to the way they do. And the thing is, this is a Japanese anime, and it knows it. It is cliched as hell. Granted, the cliches are not, like, done terribly, but they are there, and it's like, I can see someone getting, like, really turned off by some of these cliches in that sense. And there's some times where it's like, it seems like, oh, look, we're making fun of this cliche, but it's like, but you're still doing it. So it's like, the main thing I point to is, there's this character, one of the classmates, who's like, his main thing is that he's like a super perv, okay? And so there's one of the jokes that, oh, look at this guy, he's always trying to perv on the girls or whatever. But like, while showing that, and they're kind of like, look how we're making fun of this pervy guy, and it's like, yeah, but while you're doing that, you're like, seeing through his eyes about like what he sees of like, you know, the girls being like in cheerleader outfits, or literally there's a fucking hot spring scene where they're like basically naked, you know what I mean? So it's like you're making fun of the trope of the perverted guy, but you're still showing us this. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's a little iffy, and that said, though, again, when they do some, like, emotional stuff, it works pretty well. So, again, there are some things with, like, some specific characters and some moments, again, usually related to the main character that I'm just kind of like, eh. So, again, I feel like if the main character was better, or it was more, like, there wasn't a main character and it was more, like, the class as a whole is, like, the main character, I would like this more. But as it is, I do like it. It's just a few things bother me here and there. So, that's kind of my stand on it, but... Okay, last thing. There was a pilot posted on YouTube called Has Been Hotel. The premise of this is basically, the show takes place in hell. And, the main character, I think is supposed to be the daughter of Satan, I think, is basically like, I'm gonna open a hotel to rehabilitate demons and make them good. And the art style is weird as hell, and is the best thing about it. It looks weird, but it works. It works. It's definitely different and interesting. The characters and the dialogue, I'm not 100% sold on yet. It does feel a little kind of juvenile in terms of the humor. Some of it works. For example, there's the radio demon, which is kind of a dumb name, but I actually kind of like him in terms of that he's this sort of this really odd presence that you're like, you're kind of funny, but at the same time, you're kind of weird, dude. So, like, weird in, like, a kind of creepy way. So, I kind of like that, but, like, the main character is, like, and they do kind of, like, they bust into song, and it's like, okay, So, I've seen a lot of people who, like, love it. I don't love it, but if this does become an actual, like, show or whatever, I'd be curious to check it out, but I'm not sure if I would actually love the full show or not. But I wanted to at least mention it, because I've seen people love it a lot. So at least, it's worth looking at the pilot, at least, to see if it's something that you're... I'm done.
Are you sure?
Yeah, well, for shows, yes. I'm done with the shows. So I watched a fuckload of shows this year. A lot of these, like... My main thing for next year is that, like, a lot of these shows, I think they're going to continue. For example, like, Hilda Season 2, I believe, is confirmed. She-Ra Season 5, I don't know if it's officially confirmed, but it's probably going to happen in 2020. Hopefully that Wizard show will happen, hopefully Dragon Prince gets resolved and we'll have Season 4 then. Hopefully Young Justice Season 4 will happen. Black Mirror will continue. Hopefully the Rick and Morty stuff will continue and not be bad. So it's a lot of continuing stuff of that. There was one thing I saw that was actually an ad for something where it was like a CGI anime, like a 3D CGI anime thing that was apparently like being made by the guy who did Fullmetal Alchemist.
What?
And it was something about like robots like caring for a human baby. It was weird. I don't remember that. I want to say the name was like Eve or something like that. I have to look it up, but yeah. So I maybe might check that out because that looks kind of interesting. But yeah, in terms of like new other stuff, I just don't really know enough to kind of know about it. But at least thought, maybe you guys can look into that. It could be interesting. But yeah, that's my show stuff.
Oh boy.
So I will say, like, the main highlights for me would be Young Justice as a whole, just being really good, and then Dragon Prince and She-Ra, probably the next two things that I'd say are like the most. But I want them to continue. She-Ra basically to end, and I want Dragon Prince to fully, because I think from what I've seen about interviews and stuff is that their plan for Dragon Prince is to be 7 seasons, where the first 3 are kind of one story, and then 4 and 5 are one story, and 6 and 7 are another story, as they all kind of come together. So I want them to be able to finish that and tell the story or whatever. But again, the shitty stuff with the creators is, But yeah, so that's kind of. That's where I stand with that. And then the other stuff is at least, curious about to see if it continues or finish up or whatever. And yeah. Oh, do you have anything else to say?
Shows we have watched.
I guess we'll do the ones that we've watched together.
Yeah. That's that they're not nearly as numerous.
No, but I guess since there's 2 of us talking, maybe it might make up for it a little bit.
Instead of just hearing me talk for an hour straight, yeah.
Okay, I guess the first one I want to bring up is a show that we actually watched a long, long time ago. It's Fruits Basket, actually.
Oh yeah, so Fruits Basket the reboot for it. Okay, so let's give some backstory about Fruits Basket if anyone doesn't know. So there's this manga called Fruits Basket. It's not about fruit.
Tangerine Boy.
Oh boy.
There was the original anime adaptation that came out in 2001.
I guess the thing with that is that it's not really as much of a problem now, I don't think. But at least back in like the early 2000s, and I guess even earlier than that, a lot of times when animes were like done for mangas, they typically did not wait until the manga was done, or they didn't pace themselves in a way where they could continue following the manga.
Isn't that kind of what happened to the original Fullmetal Alchemist thing?
Yeah.
Yes, that is what happened.
So, yeah, basically what would happen is that they would follow the material until they didn't have any material, and then they would be like, okay, shoot, now we have to finish this, but how do we finish this? And then they would kind of do, like, this weird ending, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the ending of the first 2001 anime, last episode, doesn't exist because that was weird as hell.
Yeah.
And, like, not in the way that Valen would like it, but in the way of, like, what the actual fuck did they think they were trying to accomplish?
So they pulled a rebellion.
Kinda, yeah.
Maybe worse, because, I mean, the manga wasn't done, so a certain thing was, like, done in the last episode that got, disproven later. The thing with Akito. So that was interesting. I think it was because of the last episode of the anime that I did not continue the manga for a long, long time.
I did, though.
So when did you finish the manga?
Yeah. The manga is definitely really good, and thus the story is really good. So when a reboot was set to be going up and stuff, we were actually pretty interested in everything, because the original studio that did the first anime did it. The animation's kind of really wonky.
Yeah, Studio Dean. So we'll have a little bit. I'll introduce you guys a little bit. Well, I'll introduce Valen a bit more to Studio Dean.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
That'll be fun.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Good luck, Valen.
Uh-oh.
That said, the animation this time around was really pretty. And it's not even just the fact that obviously there's like a huge expanse of time in between the two. It's just the studio actually knows what it's doing too.
Yeah, like people are not, their faces are not changing all the time. And I mean, I feel like now that the manga is finished, the people actually know what they're doing with the characters, and like they don't have these weird lapses where it's like, who are you?
Yeah. It's like, you were like this the previous episode, but now you're like this. They actually, like, follow, like, the character arcs and everything.
Because it's, especially if you're making it while it's still going on, you don't really know exactly what to emphasize.
Yeah.
So,
Because, a lot of the characters are complicated, to say the least, especially the main, like, I guess three. I would say they're the main three. Toru, Yuki, and Kyo. They're all very complicated people.
I'm sure if we told Valen the premise, he'd be like, that sounds like the most generic, like, anime thing ever, where it's like a girl basically ends up living with two guys from her high school.
And their cousin, their older cousin, who's like an older gentleman.
Yeah, and there's the Zodiac is involved and stuff like that, and she meets a bunch of people and things like that. And you're like, how can something like that be interesting? But it's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's just a lot of interesting things about, like, I don't know, like grief and just the human psyche and how people deal with trauma. That is going to be the main crux of the entire series, because the first season is kind of the introduction. You get like a lot of the characters that will be important. You get a little bit of who they are, but then season 2 is coming out, I think, sometime next year. It's starting, and we'll either watch it as it comes out or binge it at the end like we did the first season. And this is when things start to get a bit heavy.
Yeah. That said, there is, like, one thing which is definitely a thing with the series, but it's not... which is that the Zodiac family is a family. So there are some, like, relationships and stuff like that where you're like, yeah, they're a family, so obviously there's some problems and issues, and
there's some weird, problematic, quote-unquote shit going on with some of the romances. The main one, no. But the other ones can be questionable.
Yeah. So that is something to keep in mind, and there are some, like... It hasn't been revealed in the first season yet, but there is a relationship later on. I think... Wait, there's two relationships where there is, like, age differences and stuff like that, too.
Yeah.
So... It's kind of like that... Is it, like... an anime that you should be watching for, like, relationship stuff? Probably not.
No.
Don't take that as, like, a thing to watch for that kind of reason. But it does talk about certain issues and stuff like that.
I think, yeah, if you're willing to overlook the romance of some of the characters, they're mostly side characters, so you're not going to really see it that much, but it's touched upon in a way that it deals with how they cope with certain things and how certain coping mechanisms are not okay.
Yeah.
So in that way, it's really interesting. It's just that you have to overlook a few things, you know? So it's really like, am I willing to overlook this or not? And I think some people might not be able to. That's fine. I mean, you know, not everything is for everyone.
Considering how I tend to view relationships, yeah, I don't know.
It's not perfect. I don't think, Ron, you'll have too much of an issue.
Okay, well...
But, yeah. We'll see eventually. On the flip side, we watched a different anime earlier in the year. It was actually because of I had heard someone do a cover of the opening theme song, and I was like, oh, this sounds really, like, interesting and stuff like that. And then I told Maya about it, and we were like, oh, okay, let's watch it. Which is Wotakoi.
Basically, Love is Hard for Otaku, and it's about two couples. They're, you know, canon already. And it's, like, basically how nerds try to navigate being in love, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really adorable.
Okay.
Like, it's fun to watch with another person, whether it's, like, your friend or your significant other, if, like, you both like watching, like, cute nerds doing weird, awkward shit.
Okay.
And you can kind of relate to, like, some of the things and stuff.
Yeah.
I think you would actually really enjoy watching it with Julie.
Okay. Yeah, like, it actually doesn't sound that bad, especially, again, if the whole point is the romance stuff in it, like, that, you know, that can work. Because, again, I said this before, I like romances if they're done well. So, yeah.
So we have, like, okay, so the main girl is, like, she draws, like, fan art, basically.
Yaoi fan art, yeah.
Yeah, yaoi fan art. And then her boyfriend, I mean, this happens in the first episode, so it's not really a spoiler. Her boyfriend, he's a gamer, so he's really, really into video games.
This very much sounds like me and Julie, although I don't play games.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, I don't play games as much as I used to, but yeah, very similar corners of nerddom.
So, like, they're two co-worker/friends, since they all work in the same, like, company. The other lady is a cosplayer, and the other guy is kind of like, he's like the light otaku who's, like, trying not to show that he's into, like, reading manga or, like, watching anime or playing games.
He's like weeb light.
Yeah,
he's the one who's trying to be normal.
But he can't help but get dragged by his friends to do other things.
Okay. What's the show called again?
Wotakoi?
I can spell it for you.
Is it Wotakoi?
Yeah. Alright, wait. Ryan will.
Oh, Wotakoi, okay.
It's on Amazon. I don't know if it's still on Amazon, but...
It might be. I think it might be.
Because, yeah, actually, that doesn't actually sound kind of decent.
It sounds really... We can watch... If you want to, we can watch the first few episodes.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah,
That can be.
okay, we can do that.
That can be
maybe.
something one of you put on the stuff coming up.
Maybe I can do that for March.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah,
because
like,
you're coming up for
after.
yeah. Well, wait, we can't say.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, whatever. We'll leave that in because I don't too lazy to edit it out.
So if
yeah,
you like it, you can show people and be like, "Hey, look, it's nerds in love like us."
yeah. Actually, you know what? That like again, I'm kind of curious to check that out. Actually.
There's not much for us to talk about other than it's like cute and relatable, especially if you're also like a nerd. You don't have to be an otaku. You can just be like a nerd who feels kind of awkward in the quote unquote real world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a slice of life. There's no plot per se. It's just like how these characters go about their relationships and life and stuff like that. So it's definitely one of those things where you can just have it on and you can feel happy. And
I
it's
don't
good
know if there's a
now.
dub, but
Oh.
there might be by now. I'm not 100% sure.
I'll look into it.
Yay! So we shall, but don't watch it yet, I guess.
Okay. I'll at least check if there's a dub and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
What else?
What?
We watched a lot of Bon Appetit this
Yeah.
year. If that counts as a show.
Sure.
It's a YouTube channel. It's a cooking YouTube channel, but I guess they have like various shows that focus on like different chefs in the test kitchen and stuff like that. And I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of like you get a sense of like how their family quote unquote works in the kitchen, and each come with their own personalities, and it's just one of those things where it's just very funny to watch.
Like, you don't even have to be good at cooking. It's just like interesting to just watch these people either succeed or struggle.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
Claire.
I've
Or Claire.
I don't think I don't know if it's the exact same show, but I've been subjected to various cooking videos.
No, that's not. That's Sorted. That's another channel,
Okay.
cooking channel.
But at least my point is I've been exposed to the genre.
The genre of cooking show.
Yes.
I am a massive. I like watching food get made and like learning how food gets made. So
So our food is good.
yeah, I have learned so many recipes. So thus, I follow a lot of cooking channels, which I don't normally get to talk about that much because obviously movies don't really center on cooking,
Okay.
except I guess Ratatouille. But I think the only movie I can think about that even centered a little bit.
I don't think it really teaches you how to cook.
No, it doesn't really teach you how to cook.
Get
Here
a
they
small rat friend to help you cook.
Yes.
Easy.
But yeah, the cooking shows, it's really interesting and stuff like that. Like I learn about like stuff where it's like, oh, that's how you kind of like do that thing, or that's why that dish works and stuff like that. Or even like Claire, like my unmentioned Claire, she does like gourmet makes. It's like you don't realize how complicated certain foods are that you kind of take for granted until someone actually tries making it, and you're like, oh, like Pringles. I didn't realize how hard like Pringles, like to get the shape of Pringles was to actually get until she tried making it, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. You have to do that, or like Starburst or Mentos, and I'm like, yeah, how did someone come up with this?
She suffered so much in the Starburst episode. Oh my god.
Or like the catfish episode for It's Alive. I was like, oh my god.
Brad, yeah. Brad is a gift.
Yes. And then like making perfect and stuff like that, like making the perfect pizza or making the perfect Thanksgiving, and you're like, huh. It's very interesting, and I love like watching all the cooking channels and stuff like that. Another cooking channel, not this year, but that have been following for a long time is like Mung Chi, who's like a Korean chef, and it's like sitting and watching like your mom or aunt cook, and it's just really it's nice and friendly.
It's just very wholesome and homey, I guess.
Yeah, wholesome and homey. Homely. What else have I? Oh, we started watching Hello Future Me this year. You introduced me, I think, to it.
Oh yeah. So Hello Future Me is among the many like writing kind of channels that I watch, or like, that kind of stuff. So he breaks down like different writing mechanics and like different tropes and how to do things, how to make things work well. And he uses a lot of examples. Like, he's a big fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, like so many other people in our generation are. And
Yeah.
he kind of shows you how it worked so well. Like, he takes like an example of one of his recent ones was what was it?
Ira?
Oh yeah, like Iroh, and how like he represents like a healthy masculinity, while Ozai is like the unhealthy, like toxic masculinity, and like how they affect Zuko, like how their influence affect him, or like how to write a flashback properly, or how to like incorporate certain aspects. So I think that's just really interesting, me being into writing, like watching how other people like break it down, or like, oh, I have trouble with this, so maybe I'll see some like advice or examples of how it was done right, and then maybe I can get a better idea of how to do it myself. So yeah, it's if you're interested in like how media gets broken down, or just like if you also write, or if you're just interested in the craft of writing for either actual book writing or media, then he's a really interesting person to check out. And then I'll just, as usual, plug Dominic Noble, because his show is really funny and really good, like the Lost in Adaptation. So go watch him.
Yeah, this year and last year I've watched a lot of like kind of video essays, mostly on movies and like shows.
Yeah.
Most are on books, but yeah, kind of similar idea. I can't really point to like one specific person and be like, oh, they're like the best person. I'm not sure. I just kind of watch random stuff. But yeah, it's just some are more like the comedic angle, while some are more like actual like kind of serious analysis. So it kind of depends on what you're going for. But
yeah.
What else? Oh, I have okay, so there's one channel called Extra Credits, which they do like a bunch of different things, but I guess typically they're genres that I'm interested in. But basically they started off as a game channel, actually, where they explain like how the gaming industry works and stuff like that. Valen, you might actually be interested in that. Like they'll explain like certain mechanics of how like video games get made, or how to get hired in video games, what are some things that you have to look out for. And in general, they also can apply to like other things too within the media industry. Like for me as like an artist and stuff like that, and for Maya as a writer and whatnot. Then they also have these other series, which is like Extra Credits History, which obviously I would be very interested in. And the thing is that they pick pockets of time where it focuses on like a major event that maybe you might have like read in like a paragraph in your textbook or something like that. Like one of their series is about like the 1918 flu epidemic, but they made like a whole series about it, and you actually kind of understand the gravity of like, oh shoot, this was like a really big thing back then and stuff like that, and you see like the sheer scale of it and whatnot. So I thought that was really interesting. They recently are doing a thing about like how Britain got like its police force and stuff like that, and you're thinking, how can that be interesting? But it's actually kind of interesting how that came to be and stuff like that. So they have like Extra Credits History. They have another one for like sci-fi, which Valen, you might be interested in. I didn't watch too much for the sci-fi one. Am I missing any? The other ones that they do? I feel like I am. They have like a lot of shows and stuff like that, and it's in general very. Oh no, mythology. The mythology one is also pretty funny to watch and stuff like that, where they talk about like different myths and things like that from all around the world. Though speaking of myths and history and stuff like that, there's OSP also.
Oh yeah, Overly Sarcastic Productions, which I think I also introduced you to this year.
Yes, you did. I think like really early on.
They do a lot of stuff. They do history. They do just kind of funny stuff. They and then they do like tropes in media also. So there's two hosts. So there's Red, who does all the literary stuff, and then there's Blue
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's Blue, who does all the hard history stuff, basically.
And they talk about it, and they'll talk about like certain like places or like certain points in history or certain people in history. Like Blue, for example, mainly focuses on like ancient Greece or Rome and stuff like that, but he'll also talk about like other ancient civilizations. And then Red also focuses. Usually, she'll either focus on like literature or she'll focus on like certain myths and legends and whatnot. And it's just, in general, it's just very hilarious to watch them and stuff like that, and it's pretty easy to understand like certain things. So, yeah.
It's nice to have all these fun educational YouTube channels now after we're out of like high school.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I do have. There's a couple of YouTube channels I want to plug, but I wanted to kind of have them as their own little section. So.
Oh.
But you can.
Keep going. Yeah, PBS Eons, which I think I introduced you to.
Yeah. Yeah. They have good stuff.
They have really good stuff.
We're padding out the TV shows with YouTube channels.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because you didn't see 21 shows like I fucking did.
So it's fine.
Yeah.
I guess now you can talk about YouTube balance.
Okay. Well, a lot of it is stuff that's like you mentioned, like movie, essay kind of stuff. Again, I'm trying to think of any examples. Like trying to think of.
Lindsay Ellis?
Oh yeah, so Lindsay Ellis, we've talked about her before, definitely in in-depth stuff of what she's done, so that's impressive. In terms of like more specific, like here's a film and how it handles a thing in its film. Filmento is pretty good with that.
So I've seen a couple of his videos.
Yeah, so Filmento is pretty good with that. I've been watching Corridor Crew's reaction videos to CGI. That's really interesting.
I think you showed us one for Bollywood.
Yeah, so it's the same dude. So those are really interesting because they're kind of breaking down like how certain effects are made, and like it's just kind of it's just interesting to just kind of learn about the CGI process because I don't know how this shit works, right? So that's been really interesting just to kind of go through that. If you want, okay, this is kind of different, but I originally stumbled upon this guy through kind of a comedic movie review. But this guy, Elvis the Alien, the main thing he does is he kind of like, it's usually like there's like people on YouTube that are just like shitty people, and he just like rips into them, and like, but it's in a way where it's like it doesn't feel like super mean spirited. It just feels like, look at what the fuck is this dude doing, right? It's like funny, right? It was the like that like cooking video I showed you that was like disaster. That guy. So yeah, it's just kind of that's like much more comedic, and he's done a few sort of like movie review kind of things that are comedic, and like there's one where it's this Nicolas Cage movie where like it's sort of like what was it called? It's almost like The Happening, where like, you have like this weird thing that like this for some reason, but like where it causes like parents to want to kill their children, and Nicolas Cage is like is the dad, and it's like it's just fucking nuts, and it's like he like grifts on that. So it's pretty entertaining. So there's that. But the things I kind of wanted to specifically point out. Let's see. There's a couple of things. Tearzu. I want to point out Tearzu. So, Tearzu basically describes like how animals do stuff, but in like from like a video game meta kind of sense. So just really creative in how the framing of everything, and there's legitimately good information that's presented there. So that's very good. Let's see. Speaking of video games, Summoning Salt does some really good videos on speedrunners and how, for example, there's like a lot of like, you know, the history of the speedrun of like Mario Kart 64 or something like that, right? And it's like, it sounds like, you know, why do I really care, right? It's speedrunners of like a game that I haven't even played. But like, they're just made really well, and like, he made a video on Castlevania speedruns. I've never played a single Castlevania game before, but the video is interesting, so I watched it, you know, and it's just like, so he's really good at making videos that like, you just want to watch because it's interesting. Let's see, there's that. In terms of like, okay, I mentioned video essays before, and so like Lindsay Ellis's things like very well researched and that kind of stuff. But there's one person who I have found that I can definitively say, at least from what I've seen, who has made the best video essays.
Oh, okay.
Jacob Geller. So
Ooh, that.
JACOBGELLER.
Okay.
And again, it's in terms of like pure like content and effort. Again, Lindsay Ellis probably still beats it, but just in terms of how well the videos are made and the sort of points that are gotten across and how they're gotten across, I have not seen someone do it better. Now, most of what he does is kind of video game focused to some degree, but not all of it, and a lot of it is added on in a way that's very good. So, for example, the most recent video he did was on the newest Call of Duty game and how the framing of it is, here's this game that's not political on literal, like, terrorism and, like, torture and American imperialism, and he sort of, like, tears it all down in, like, a way that's, like, really effective, and it's, like, stuff where it's, like, yeah, like, you know, and then the fact that not only that just saying that this game is not political is not just, like, wrong, but it's, like, kind of dangerous. So, like, that was good. And I actually found him through his video on Shadow the Colossus. It was like Secrets of Shadow the Colossus. That's kind of the video that sort of like blew up and got a lot of views of his. So I found him through that. But I really like his video on. I always forget the name of the video. It's if you type in Universal Paperclips. So Jacob Geller Universal Paperclips, you'll find it. It's how basically like. It's weird. It's weird. I don't even want to explain it because it's kind of a weird thing to watch, but it's really good. There's a video on this game called Outer Wilds, which there's a game that's out now called like The Outer Worlds that's supposed to be like kind of the same people who made like the first like Fallout games or whatever. It's not that. It's a different game. And just his description of what he does in the game and how the game works. Again, I'd never heard of the game before. I watched this video and I'm like, shit, this game looks amazing. But it's how he portrays it, though. It's totally his delivery and how it goes. I'm like, this is so good. And I will say, he made a video on Super Mario Galaxy. That video made me cry. Not kidding. The fucking YouTube video on Super Mario Galaxy made me cry. Like, that's how good this dude is. So, yeah, like... he makes very, very, very good movies. The YouTube videos.
He makes good movies.
Yeah, so, like...
YouTube movies.
But no, legit, like, this dude's, like, in terms of, like, a documentary style kind of, like, video essay, I have not seen anyone do it better than this guy. So, please go check him out. Even though the Shadow of the Colossus video blew up, he still doesn't have, like, a ton of subscribers or viewers, so give him more love. And then I do also want to shout out, Innuendo Studios, specifically his alt-right playbook. It's a very important series of videos that kind of really gets into like the psychology of people in the alt-right and people who might fall into the alt-right and how to at least understand why they are fucked up. And that's important because I have said this before and I stand by that, like, I feel that I could have fallen down that hole. And I don't really know what brought me out of it. And watching his videos, I'm just like, yep. Like, I'm kind of just seeing, like, yeah, this is what happens. And it's very important, especially as I'm a teacher. You know, there's probably students in my class who are kind of going through similar things and might be kind of, like, teetering on the edge of this stuff. And it's stuff that needs to be seen, and it's very important. So I definitely want to shout that out. It's like, everyone should kind of look into that, because that's very important to realize that there are people who are purposely manipulating you to try to believe them, and it's just, and there's more beyond it with that, and there's a lot going on. He's had several videos on it, but they're all really good. So, And then the last thing I want to say is, actually, okay, two things. The first is a YouTube channel that's called Melody Sheep, and Melody Sheep, I think they're like a CGI. I'm not sure exactly what they're, but if they do like CGI work or if it's also like the music or whatever. But they've created some, again, sort of like documentary style kind of videos on things. And the best one, and I've said this is one of the best videos on YouTube, period, it's called Time Lapse of the Future. And it's a video, basically, it's about 30 minutes long that covers what's going to happen in the universe from now until the end. And again, I'm sure you've seen other kind of documentaries that kind of talk about this, but this is done in such an artistic way, and also still, legitimate, informative way. It's incredibly impressive and incredibly well done. I showed this video to my students last year, and this is a video I want to show to my students, like, over and over, like, every single year, because it's just so well made. It's like legitimately emotional in how it shows everything and its stuff. So that is an excellent video. So, and they're doing some sort of series on life now. Their first part was, like, I think a few weeks old at this point. So that's something to look out for as well. So that's really good stuff. And then the very last thing I'm going to say is that there are some, like, kind of horror themed stuff that I've kind of gone into. I've always kind of looked into this on YouTube for a while. In October, I did kind of post a lot of stuff on Twitter about that. So I'm not going to really go into details because I'd say kind of check Twitter. There's not really anything I found afterward that's different. But there are some additions. Cat Ghost, which I tweeted about, that actually ended very recently. So you can kind of see the full experience of that. But that is weird and hard to understand. So you might need to wait for some analysis videos on that, because there's a lot going on there. And then I always just want to give a shout out to Dad. So go subscribe to Dad. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go on YouTube and type in Dad and enjoy.
Okay.
So, that's my YouTube stuff. Anyone have anything else? Or anything?
I did watch an anime. I'm in the process of re-watching it for certain reasons, but do you have anything else you want to say first? Tara?
Oh, what did I watch? Anything? Oh, well, I've been watching with my family, like, Grand Tour and stuff like that, which I kind of don't want to say too much about because, well, my aunt's watched it before, but Valen has no idea what it is.
Nope.
So I kind of want to say anything.
Hint. At some point, it will come up.
At some point, it'll come up. All I'm going to say is that it was pretty funny and we enjoyed it. And it is a car show, but at the same time, it's not.
Like, you don't need to know anything about cars or really be interested in cars to enjoy the show.
I'm not.
No, I don't drive either, but it's interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
It's fun.
It's a gala old time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got more into video games this year. I mean, not video games, board games this year. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can proceed, Mian.
Okay, so I guess to close out this very weird section, very weirdly paced section. So aforementioned friend who likes My Hero Academia also introduced technically both of us to this series when it started airing last year. But I only started watching it in, I think, January or February this year.
Something
the first time.
like that.
So this series is, it actually takes place in, like, the New York City area, so it's kind of interesting. But it's called Banana Fish.
Which sounds really weird.
Which sounds dumb, right?
Like Fruits Basket.
Hey, there are fruits involved again.
It still sounds dumb.
Okay, so banana fish. I guess I'll preface it like this: the name it comes from is actually from a short story by J.D. Salinger, who is an author I don't like. But he wrote this short story about basically like this phenomenon, this made-up phenomenon called banana fish, which is like this fish that lives in the ocean that eats bananas, but it like kind of overeats itself and dies, and that kind of goes into the short story. I haven't read it, but I looked it up. And this series is one of the rare 24 episode ones nowadays, because nowadays they're like 12 episodes per season. This wrapped up one go, 24 episodes.
Because the manga is from like 1980s. Like
yeah,
the 1980s.
the manga is really old. So it was originally serialized, I think 1985 to 1992 or 1993 or something.
Something like that.
So it's old. It took a very long time to get an adaptation.
And they updated it and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was updated, and I don't really know what to say about Banana Fish other than it is quite emotionally heart-wrenching, but it's also very, like, engaging. Okay, so it's about basically there's this guy, Ash Lynx, and he is trying to take down basically his crime boss, the crime boss who raised him, I guess is the way to put it, because he's a bad guy.
I'll put it this way, Val. There's a reason why I couldn't watch it.
Okay.
And there's a reason why I'm probably not going to be able to put it on the watch thing, because the first three to four episodes are kind of hard to watch if you're sensitive to certain topics. I don't really know what to say without like getting kind of emotional about it, but so you're gonna follow like Ash and like his friends. There's like Eiji, who's from Japan, and then there's Shorter, who's from Chinatown, and they have adventures for a while. I don't really, yeah. I think, Valen, you might like it. It can get kind of difficult in terms of subject matter sometimes.
Okay.
But it's not gonna be like weird in terms of, it's not like gross. It is violent because I mean there are gangs involved.
Mm-hmm.
It is sad, and there is a I don't really know if you would consider it to be a relationship, but there is a strong friendship that is very important.
Okay.
That you might at least like kind of appreciate. There are times where it gets kind of to be too much, and I have seen that. I do kind of agree that certain points it gets to be a little bit too much in terms of like the tragedy. But overall, I think what really endears you to the story is the characters, especially Ash and Eiji. They're very like easy to get attached to, as well as Max. I really liked Max, and then there are a couple of like side characters who you get attached to, like Sing. I like Kane Blood a lot. Like he's one of my favorite like side characters, and then there's Shorter. So I can't say that much about it other than what I have said, because the pacing and the suspense is very important. It's kind of, I guess, a thriller or like a crime drama, but there are also like, originally this was a shoujo, so there are some moments where it's like kind of light, but it's kind of well earned because there are a lot of heavy things in the series, so you need to space it out. So I thought it wasn't too jarring. Some people might think it is, but I think maybe I'm kind of used to the weird tonal shifts sometimes in anime. So yeah, should I do like if you're sensitive to X, maybe you shouldn't.
Probably.
Okay, so there is some implied and talked about sexual assault, and there's a lot of just like trauma. So just be aware of that if you are interested. Like, I would probably find a list of content warning and like just look at that if you're sensitive to that stuff. But yeah, it's really good. It's really sad, but yeah, it's also quite endearing if you get attached to the characters. And yeah, I'm rewatching it because why not?
Okay. Anything else to talk about in terms of any sort of shows?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Well,
No.
then I guess we're almost done. Oh, okay. Well, So one thing I do want to point out before we finish is, this year for me, and I feel like I say this every year, but like, especially at least for now, is I feel like 2019 was the year that like I wound up with so much music that I like, just a ton. So I've been posting on Twitter, sort of highlight music stuff for my personal taste. And I know it's very personal taste. Even if you like the rough genre that I do, it doesn't mean you're gonna like the specific music that I do. But I'm gonna be well, again, this video goes up the 30th. And I will have posted one thing for every day of December, including something that's going to go up on 30th as well. And all of those are basically runners-up of my favorite things of the year. So that's 30 things that are all runners-up, basically. And then tomorrow, hopefully I can finish editing this together in time. Hopefully I'm going to have like an actual my top 15 favorite albums of this year. So if you're curious, so if you want to know about music stuff, what I'm interested in, again, don't expect you to like it, but if you're curious, I've wanted to kind of make some sort of music kind of talk about for stuff for a while, so I'm actually going to do that, so you can see how that works. So if you are interested, it's on Twitter, and you'll have that video tomorrow, so that'll be that.
Yay!
So,
Yay.
and I guess last thing to really talk about for 2019 is just, I don't know, how was life?
Good.
Mine basically, like, there wasn't really a change in anything, but it was more just kind of, especially for like teaching, it was because again, last school year I had was my first year at a new school, and
Yeah.
after the kind of shittiness of the previous school, and so just sort of that year wrapping up, and then this new school year starting up, still at the same school again. It's sort of a relaxation, and it's sort of like should be the normal now,
Right.
and I'm like, that's good, right? So
Yeah.
that works. And then again, besides that, the only other I honestly think that I can point to is like really a standout is that Julie and I went to visit you two. So
Yay!
yeah, so that was good. Otherwise, I don't know. To me, 2019 was basically just confirming that how things are going right now is good enough.
Mhm.
So that was kind of my thing anyway.
Well, I guess the highlight for me this year is how much I traveled, and I mean, you guys came to visit, then we went to Japan.
Mhm.
And I'll actually be back on an airplane.
Yep.
And that actually leads to what these two will be doing while I'm gone. So,
Yeah, we'll get to that shortly.
yes.
How was life for me? God, I feel like this was a very weird, rough, kind of transitionary year, because, man, there were some highlights, but then I was not very happy for some of it either, because, oh man, I don't want to, like, get into it, but my job was kind of sucky. So basically, what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to take an exam and go back to school. And I was that kid who did not want to go back to school after I graduated. I was like, I took my degree, I ran, I was like, I'm done. But, wow, the job market is bad, especially
Yeah.
if you're trying to do something that you
It's not
want to
completely
do.
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
and
can get a job fairly easily, but that job will not be fun at
yeah,
all.
because like, look, I studied English. I'm in an IT company. I don't do this, and I want to do like my stuff on the side, like all my projects. But I'm also like, even though I have time, I'm like
Broke.
super unhappy with my situation because it's so inconsistent. So I wanted a little bit more stability, and I thought, okay, let me pursue this other interest that I have. So I'm trying to do that, and hopefully things will work out next year.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm just gonna be stuck in this weird transitionary limbo for a couple of years because of like other life things that are going on. So
Yeah.
let's hope that things get better.
I guess that's a good transition to what you guys will be starting the next year with.
It also just kind of looking forward to next year in general.
Yeah.
Again, I just mentioned earlier that my thing is that I plan on moving. Again, I'm still going to be teaching at the same school, but I'm going to be actually, moving out of my mom's house and going to be living at least my own place. I'll probably have like a roommate or something. We have to figure that out. But yeah, that's going to be my big change basically. Besides that, I don't really plan on anything else. We mentioned some 2020 like games and stuff, but we didn't talk about like upcoming 2020 movies stuff. I have a few that it might be interested. This shouldn't take very long. Well, of course we have Marvel stuff starting up again, right? We have Black Widow and Eternals, and then we have the Falcon and Winter Soldier show.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Wonder Woman sequel, which could be all right. There's Onward, new Pixar movie. There's a new Christopher Nolan movie, Tenet. Actually, a trailer for that just came out very recently.
Interesting.
It's interesting. It's one of those where it's like, I don't know what's happening in this. I'm curious about that. I'm kind of curious about Dune. Like, I know like Dune is kind of this sort of like this cult classic film and book or whatever. I didn't really know anything about it, but just kind of another grand scale kind of sci-fi thing. Sure, why not? If it's good, it's good, right? Apparently they're finally actually going to really be making that Uncharted movie that's been in the rumor for a long time. And apparently Tom Holland is supposed to be Nathan Drake, which doesn't make any sense to me. But I guess we'll see how it works. So,
I guess I have to watch it now.
Yeah. And then, of course, but we all know the greatest film for 2020.
Oh no.
Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Oh my god.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of disappointed they changed the design. Because if they didn't change the design, it would be a glorious travesty.
Oh my God.
Whereas now, the design's fine, but now it just looks like a really generic, dumb movie. And I'm like, now it's not as exciting as the complete utter failure it would have been before. And I'm kind of sad about that. But
Well, now you have cats to replace that.
Ah, you're right, Cats. Oh my god. Okay, so if anyone has not done this, please go read the reviews of the movie Cats. It is hilarious. They rip it apart so much. It's so funny. So, yeah, so that's kind of stuff to look forward to, at least for some movies. Again, not a ton that's like a really obvious, like, ooh, I really got to see that or anything. But there's some decent stuff in there, and who knows how things actually shape up. But yeah, we're transitioning into
A new
2020,
decade.
which is weird. It's so weird. I'm gonna get so screwed by writing dates, because like,
Yeah, I know, right?
because the thing is, like, at least for all these last years, like, at least the first digit of the year was the same. So here's what we're gonna be doing. Now, Tara, she said she's going to be traveling for a while.
Yes.
And we're like, well, that's kind of lame. We want to keep watching movies, but we also are like, we don't want to have to like record a giant backlog of stuff now, which would be a huge pain and timing wise. So we're like, what do we do? And so we're like, is there anything we could do anything we can watch, Maya and I can watch, that Tara just does not want to see?
Yes, the answer is
And
yes.
the answer is yes.
Yeah. It's a very big yes, because, okay, to give some, like, backstory to this. Valen, even before I mentioned that I was going to be traveling and stuff like that, Valen actually had a plan for January. And when he set the plan, it just so happened to be the day that I was going to be mentioning my travel plans. But I was like, I'm not that interested in it, but you guys can watch it while you can go through with this plan while I'm traveling, because I'm not going to be here anyway, and you guys evidently are very excited for this. It's just not something that I'm personally interested in.
Yes.
So
the plan is that, well, January coming up. Yes?
After you say it, I'm just going to disclaim the first one because I wholeheartedly think it's not a bad movie.
Okay, but okay, fine. So, January is... We've talked about this when we've been watching movies before. In January, we have collectively tend to known it as shit month. Because bad movies tend to be released in January. And so we're like
Bed of Roses.
So we're like, what if we honor that? So, this January, we are going to be watching the worst of the worst.
Except the first one.
Movies that are infamous in their quality.
Okay.
We don't want to say what they are. At least, okay, well, we'll say what the first one is in a little bit, but we don't want to say what they are in the future. If you're a connoisseur of trash media, you've probably heard of some of these already. But, yeah, we are going to be subjecting ourselves to experiences.
4 of them, to be exact.
I don't think we're going to be able to give these ratings.
No.
Nope, and you guys can have as much fun as you want, because I'm not. And I'll just be relaxing.
Yeah.
Taking a nice vacation.
Yeah. Interspersed in there, I think we mentioned when we were talking all the way at the beginning of this about Pokemon that we will have kind of a discussion on the characters and story of Sword and Shield, so that'll be that'll be in the middle there once Tara comes back. But yeah, so for movie experiences, and the first one, as I said, is not like the other 3.
Yeah.
But it's still an experience that might be of a similar caliber.
Like, I'm genuinely excited to watch this movie.
I'm genuinely excited to watch all of these movies. I don't know what you're talking about. So, actually, you know what,
Should we say what the first one?
Yeah, you introduced this one.
Okay, so the first movie we're watching is Who Killed Captain Alex?
Oh boy.
And if you're familiar with I Hate Everything, you guys know that he watched this movie. It is the best of the worst, because I think it will have some interesting things to take out of it, but also it'll be hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking forward to watching it. How are we gonna find it, though?
I think it's just on YouTube, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So,
cool.
Yeah.
So we'll be experiencing Video Joker.
Yes.
For the first time.
DJ Emmy on the microphone.
Yep.
See, I'm the only thing I'm a little worried about is it just, like, do I already know, like, all the best parts, right?
Right, yeah.
So, I guess we'll see, but, it will be an experience either way. So, Tara, enjoy your vacation, and
yes,
while we, experience our experiences in the upcoming weeks.
Yes, I guess I'll get a summary of what transpired when I come back.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, hopefully, I don't know if anyone actually watched all of this. I believe in total this is like 3.5 to 4 hours. Hopefully you got, I don't know if you got something, whatever. Any last...
Well, if you got this far, you know what's happening next week.
And any last minute thoughts?
See you guys in a couple weeks, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll see you next week, and Valen will see you tomorrow.
Yes. Oh yeah, I totally forgot the music. We're recording this kind of at a weird time, so and again, we've been doing this forever, so okay. We're done. Yeah,
Bye.
we're done. Bye.
Bye.